everyone, and welcome to the stream. The stream is going to be a little bit different than the standard stream. For one, you probably know that we already streamed last week, so doing a back-to-back stream doesn't happen all that often on the channel, but obviously we all know that just a couple days ago, a pretty monumental event just took place in the coaster world, and it's too important for us to not stream. So the way this stream is going to go, there will be a Q&A, of course, but we're going to start off by kind of sharing some of our favorite memories with Kingda Ka, Zumanjaro, and by proxy, we'll talk about Top Thrill Dragster too, because with the implosion of Kingda Ka, the hydraulic launching Stratocoaster is officially dead. So what I'm going to do is put this slider in the stream there. That way you guys can share all of your memories. And once we get through all of ours, we're going to get to your guys. But first, I want to introduce everybody. We'll start with Jason and end with Bob. Jason, you want to start us off?
Hi, I'm Jason.
From Accelerated.
There you go.
Hey, I'm Ken. It seems like we just did this, but big things happened this week, so time to talk about them.
And Bob?
I'm Bob from BK Photo Page on pretty much all social media. And Andrew in the chat, thank you, IO. Okay.
Also, I do want to apologize right off the bat. I'm trying a new thing with YouTube where it runs ads by itself, and I'm seeing on the side here that it's already doing way too many. So I'm going to try to fix that right now because I know we don't want to deal with that. So while I'm working on that, I'm going to start with Ken because Ken probably has the longest history with this coaster, with these pair of rides, really, Kingda Ka and Zumanjaro. Because Ken, you were there very early on for Ka, weren't you?
I wasn't there for opening day, but I think I did the coke deal with a friend and went to ride it. And I remember the whole experience was amazing. That whole area of the park, the Golden Kingdom, was brand new. The theming was amazing. They had the whole tiger section set up with the show. And I remember going through that queue the first time. The original queue was so beautiful. People don't realize how beautiful that queue was. There was actually carvings in a lot of the poles in the queue for the lights, and hopefully they saved them. I really hope they saved a lot of the decorations that were in there. And the whole that whole area of the park was just done stupendously. It was unbelievable. Now, I probably waited about 2 hours for my first ride. And
wow.
And that was when they had the 4 stations set up. So if you picked the wrong station, you kind of got screwed. And I remember me and my friend got on there, and that launch was just, we were just blown away. It just felt like you were getting shot out of a spaceship. It was just straight up to the sky. And right after that, I went and bought my season pass.
Ken, I'm seeing in the chat, someone's asking if you remember the DJ they had in the middle of the queue.
Yes, they had a DJ. They had the queue was huge. People don't realize how huge that queue was. I mean, there were multiple sections that before you went under the track, there was a queue there, an overflow queue. Then there was a section where there was an overhead area, and then you walked your way up to the far side of the station, and then you had to choose to go back over to the side that we all loaded on for many years or stay on that side.
Ken, had you ridden Dragster before that, or was that your first like Stratocoaster?
That was my first Strat. Then I had to go ride Top Thrill.
When did you ride Dragster?
It was probably 3 years after that.
Okay. So while we're on the subject, which one did you like better?
I like the restraints in Top Thrill better. I don't like there's no reason for COD to have the over-the-shoulder restraints. And they kind of, every time I would ride over and over again, I'd get the bruises right here on COD. Top Thrill, you won't get that.
So, Bob, while we're on the subject of Dragster, obviously Dragster holds a very near and dear spot to you, considering you are a Cedar Point home parker. What was your story with Dragster? When did you first ride it, and all of that?
Oh, that's a good question, because there was like a big gap in time where I didn't go to Cedar Point for a whole bunch of years. I want to say it was probably like maybe like 2005, 2006 ish, somewhere around there. Yeah, because I remember going to Cedar Point like I don't know when I was junior year of high school, and then after that I didn't go for quite a while. I just remember being blown away by it though, and then I came out when I rode Ka for the first time was about like 2012, 2013, and I remember thinking it was, other than what Ken said about the restraints, that it was very similar, except for it just seemed so much longer on the launch track and on just going up to the top, like 3, 4, 5 seconds longer, even though it's probably not even that much. It was a weird feeling, but I remember just being also blown away by that.
When was the first time you rode Ka?
Like 2012, 2013, somewhere in there. It was funny. So what happened was we came out there and we had done like Hershey Park and other stuff. And I didn't know anything really about Great Adventure other than Ka was there. So we bought the like second tier fast pass. And if you remember how it used to be, it had the like thing that you clipped to your belt that was like as big as a Sony PSP basically. And what happened was I didn't know at the time that Ka didn't open till like noon. So it kept saying closed at like 10 a.m. And I was like losing my crap over it because I thought it was going to be like closed all day long. And then finally it popped on there and I was like, oh my gosh. And then in between we had rode Toro, and I never even knew about Toro because I was super GP back then. And I remember being just like blown away by Toro and I'm like, how did I not know about this? I only know about Ka.
That's pretty good. You have me predated with Ka by quite a bit. But before I share any of my stuff, Jason, I want to let you share your story with Ka, because for anyone who's a longtime follower of the New Jersey coaster community, you'll remember Jason's first ride on Ka very well.
Yeah, so I wouldn't ride Ka. I became an enthusiast in 2017 after like 13 years of hating roller coasters, being like ruined at like 2 years old riding Bubbles at Storybook Land. So it became a running joke, when was I going to ride Ka? And I waited till I hit 1,000 subscribers and I finally rode it. I actually have the photo right next to me, actually at my desk, from May 3rd, 2019. And I remember like sweating profusely in that queue line. When the launch hit, I put my hands up and started screaming the F word. So I think I enjoyed it.
Appropriate reaction.
Yeah, I would say so. For me, I got to start with Zumanjaro because I did ride Zumanjaro before Kingda Ka. So I got to kind of take a step way back. I've been going to Great Adventure since 2008 when I was 2 years old, when I got my first season pass. And I still remember as a little kid, I always saw Ka, and it was just like this looming presence. It had this level of just, you can't even describe what it had because you see it. And as a little kid, you can't even imagine what that must feel like because you're riding like Roadrunner Railway and Runaway Train. You have no idea what a coaster that intense could possibly feel like. So I always had this fascination and this obsession with Ka and what it must feel like to ride it. And I was always just waiting and waiting and waiting for the day when I would finally be able to ride it. But it wouldn't happen until 2016 because I was a little kid. So I remember when Zumanjaro was getting ready to open in 2014, I told my dad that it had a 48-inch height requirement, and he just did not believe me. He couldn't believe that a ride that tall, that insane, would have such a low height requirement, but it did. And I remember my very first ride in Zumanjaro, walking all the way back. I was with my dad and his friend Chris, and I got off of it, and I felt like I could do anything. Once I rode Zumanjaro, that was really like I'm ready to do Ka, and then once I do that, I can do anything at that point. That was one of the coolest moments for me as a kid, and really kind of got me further and further into this passion that I have now. And then fast forward 2 years later, it's kind of funny how Green Lantern also comes into the picture here as well, because I believe it was March of 2016. That's around the time they opened for the season back then. And I was finally 54 inches tall, at least kind of. I was pretty much there. So the first 54-inch coaster my dad decided to have me go ride was Green Lantern, of all things, which obviously, as you guys know now, in its later years, I was a massive fan of Green Lantern. But back then, when you're just barely tall enough for Green Lantern and you don't have very long legs, not a comfortable ride. I vividly remember floating the whole time because the seat did not go low enough for my feet to actually hit the floor when I was that small. And that was just an absolutely miserable experience. After that ride, I refused to ride any other ride that was 54-inch height requirement that day. So the next time I went, which was sometime in April, I think the first one I did of the day was Medusa. I barely remember that too, riding in the front row, and I was like freaking out because I thought my feet were going to hit the track, which obviously they won't. But once I rode Medusa, which at least back then I thought was a much better ride than Green Lantern, that's when I kind of worked my way up to eventually getting on Kingda Ka. And I vividly remember too, it was a very dead day, and we were just kind of powering through the queue, and they had height checkers all over the place throughout the queue back then. And I remember I walked through the entrance, they checked me, and I was just barely good, kept going. And we get to the merge point for Flash Pass in the main queue, and we just kind of like hurry right past because my dad's like, come on, before I could even have any second thoughts. We get to the station, it's completely empty. I think I got like hurried into row 5 because as we got into the station, the gates were opening. And that first ride rocked my world. I couldn't believe that I had ridden it, that it was insane as it was. And honestly, I give it a lot of credit as being the reason why I became so enthralled with coasters and trying to find the biggest and baddest one. And to this day, I have not found a coaster that has been able to make me feel the emotions that ride made me feel before my first ride on it. And, you know, I don't honestly think anything ever will. I mean, granted, I've ridden, how many am I at now? I don't even remember. Well over 400, I think. Yeah, something like that. 435. Nothing comes close to the level of anxiety and fear that you get filled with before that launch. But then the absolutely amazing rush of adrenaline that you got going through that layout. I mean, there was nothing like it other than Dragster, but Ka was better in my opinion. But truly nothing like it. And Zumanjaro, I mean, I have so many memories of taking my friends on it. And, you know, drop towers tend to petrify people a lot more than roller coasters. And I can think of every time I took someone on Zumanjaro for their first time and they're freaking out and trying to get them to open their eyes so they could see Philadelphia off in the distance. And then they finally do. And, you know how Zumanjaro goes. It's always such a fun ride. I mean, I loved going back there on the days where the park wasn't that crowded. And even if the park was kind of crowded, Zumanjaro very rarely had a line. You'd go down there and get a few rides in, make that mile walk worth it, then make your way back up, go ride Ka a few times. And to think that none of that is going to be possible anymore really does. It hasn't fully set in. Of course, you know, watching the tower come down in person was unreal. It's not really something you're ever going to see again. A structure that large coming down on purpose in a controlled fashion. I mean, as far as I know, that is the tallest all-steel structure to be fully imploded the way it was. And quite frankly, I don't think we're ever going to see something, at least in the roller coaster world, that big come down like that ever again. If Dragster or Top Thrill 2 ever winds up coming down, it's not going to come down like that because it'll hit too many things. So, yeah, it was certainly an experience getting to see that. And it kind of, as it was going down, I got this rush of all the memories I've had in my head of all the different times I rode it, especially the past couple of years where I've just rode it so many times. At some point in the stream, I'm going to check my notes. I know I have my ride count listed from 2017 to 2024 because I don't remember it off the top of my head, but it's pretty high, all things considered. Same with Zumanjaro. But yeah, emotions were high watching that thing come down, especially reading everyone's comments about, you know, sharing their memories. And that's a big reason why I'm doing this stream right now, because I know so many people have so many things that this ride and, well, both rides meant to them. So I'm hoping to see some really cool stuff in the chat of, you know, your favorite memories, your first rides, whatever the case may be. But before we go into the chat, I don't want to cut you guys off, obviously. I have my whole monologue.
I will say one of the best things was Ka was a destination ride for many people. So when you were waiting in that line and you talk to people, because a lot of times you had to wait hours to ride that thing. And when you say I rode it many times, when that thing first opened, you had to wait a long time, and sometimes you didn't get to ride it. But you would talk to people from all over the world would come there. And the best thing was riding with somebody who never rode before. It was just the most amazing, because everyone at the end of that ride was smiling and laughing. And honestly, every time I got off it, I was smiling and laughing. There's going to be nothing that's going to give you that feeling.
Especially for us as New Jersey locals to have such a monumental coaster. I mean, this thing stood as the tallest coaster in the world for the entire time it was in operation. There's no other coaster that's held the record for that long, to my knowledge, at least not that severe of a record.
We're lucky we had it as long as we did.
100%. And, you know, of course, we're all getting very sentimental about it. The fact of the matter is, it was going to come down eventually, right? I mean, these rides don't last forever.
This is Zamperla's fault. Let's be honest.
That's one way to look at it.
Had they succeeded with Top Thrill 2 off the bat, like there might have been a chance that it was saved.
I think even then, though, the thing is that Ka was very different because of the fact that it had Zumanjaro. And I think having Zumanjaro attached to that structure definitely made the way its kind of dynamics flow very different than Dragster. And I think that's a big reason why. I mean, we obviously know Top Thrill 2 still is not fully operational. I wrote it, Ken wrote it, Bob wrote it, but we wrote it in a very, very tiny window of operation. Where we don't really know what the future holds for it as of right now. We're going to have to wait and see. But even if that was still the case, I still think there was a chance that Ka might have gotten a refurb in that style if it wasn't for Zumanjaro. Because like I said, I really do think that the structure was in a very different state on Ka than it was for Dragster. And that probably had a lot to do with their decision. And, it's a very complex issue because, like I said, on one hand, we're very sentimental and emotional about it because it's so many people's favorite ride. It was their first big ride. But at the same time, when you look at it from the other perspective of, well, we have this ride, it's 20-year-old structure. It probably needs a lot of work, a lot of money to be put into it to make it last at least another 20 years. Why are we going to put that money into a structure that, quite frankly, isn't going to last that long when we can build something new? And I guarantee that the new coaster will be maybe not as tall, but I would say at least 400 feet. I would be shocked if it's not. So, we will at least have an icon. It won't be Ka, but we will have something to look forward to. But before we get to that point of the new coaster, I think we still owe it to ourselves to take a look back at some of our favorite memories on this pair of record-breaking rides. So I'm going to ask you guys again, if you have any particular memories that come to mind when you think of these two rides, go ahead and share them because that's what we're here for, to hear everyone's favorite times on the rides. And Bob, that also goes for Dragster too, because Dragster is kind of included in this.
I think, like, for me, because I don't really have an emotional connection to Ka like you guys do, obviously. But I don't know. For me, it was just that obviously those first rides are incredible. But I mean, like, just I don't know. Some of the rides I had with you guys at like Thrillathon and things like that were always just, especially at night, were just really cool. It was just one of those things that, like, I don't know how to explain it, but like you could just always knew you were going to enjoy with your friends no matter what. Like you were never, even if you had a really bad back row rough ride on it, you were still going to have fun with your friends. So that's kind of the, and we've been here before with other rides of in similar ways that have been unceremoniously taken away from people. So it's just that feeling that sucks.
100%. Jason, I'm curious, when did you first ride Zumanjaro?
2017, I believe, actually. I rode it before I rode Ka. I did.
What do you think made you decide to ride Zoom first?
I was peer pressured into it by so I used to go to a day camp as a kid, and we all went to Great Adventure like after. Like we were all still friends. I was kind of peer pressured into it, like late summer 2017, so I just rode it. And I would ride it instead of Ka with friends. I'd had friends go on Ka, and I'd ride that, maybe see them on a launch straight. Who knows? To me, it felt like it wasn't like a initial launch. The launch is what scared me on Ka. So just being pulled up, it's just a high height. I wasn't scared of heights, and it's going to stop. So really, drop towers aren't that scary versus being catapulted like a aircraft carrier do 100 miles an hour.
I was much more afraid on Zumanjaro the first time of just getting any kind of floater and then coming down on my boys. But they they pin you in enough. I didn't know that, like, because the way it pins you in is perfect. But like, you still get that floater, but you don't get floater out of the seat, luckily, because I was definitely worried that was going to happen.
Funnily enough, I'm sitting in a seat that is almost identical to Zumanjaro right now. So I may not have the Zumanjaro seat, but I have Skyrush's seat, which is pretty similar, especially the restraint.
Yeah.
You should ask Brian if there's a Zumanjaro seat you can have.
I know. Well, I don't know. They were looking a little worse for wear when I saw them getting taken off. So I don't know. They might be gone now. But Ken, while we're on the subject of Zumanjaro, when did you first ride it?
It was probably, I think, the opening day. I was actually terrified to ride that thing. I remember meeting Kristen in the line, and I said, "Did you ride it yet?" She goes, "Yeah, I'm never doing it again." And because they had the state was giving them trouble when that was like late opening, and so you didn't know when it was going to open. So the day it opened, I ran over there, and yeah, that first ride was terrifying. I mean, you just keep going up and up and up. But I will have to say, it was more terrifying when they were allowed to run it with.
I feel that's probably one of the saddest things about this pair of attractions, because they didn't get to run in their full, proper, imagined form until just a couple of years before they were, blown up. Because 2021, mid-year, I still remember to this day, I believe I was I think I was at school at that time, and I saw a video, I think Joel actually posted it, and I saw them dueling. And I was like, that's got to be like not real, right? There's no way they're allowed to do that. And then they're like, no, it's allowed now. And I was shocked. I think the next day we booked it down to go see it for ourselves. And seeing the two of those rides run together, especially when you had a pair of crews across both on Kingda Ka and Zumanjaro who were trying to time up duels, that was just amazing. I remember my first ride when that was a thing. First, let me jump into the super chat because I just saw it pop up. Thank you, Tyler, for the super chat. Hey, Colin, hope to see you on opening day. You will definitely see me there. We're going to be trying to capture all of the changes going on for opening day. But thank you for the super chat. Like I was saying about Zumanjaro, I remember my first ride. It wasn't a duel exactly. The train from Ka went up the top hat as we were going up and went through its whole course and came down as we were still going up. And that whole ride, we just shook back and forth, back and forth. One of the most unbelievable sensations you could get on a ride. And another super chat. Thank you, JP Giles, for the super chat. Long live the king. Could Top Thrill 2 possibly go a similar route to Steel Curtain as far as reliability? Will Steel Curtain finally be reliable this year? So I don't think the issue, well, I guess you're not really comparing the issue of it. I don't know that Top Thrill 2 will have the same reliability issues as Steel Curtain because they're so different, right? Steel Curtain it's more of a structural thing with Steel Curtain. That's why they're getting the reinforced supports over there. Whereas Top Thrill 2, I mean, there's a lot. There's the trains, the launch system, the tower. There's a lot to look at there. I'm really hopeful, just for the sake of Cedar Point and Zamperla, that Top Thrill 2 becomes reliable this year, because we obviously know it was not last year. And as for Steel Curtain, I really hope so. I watched that ride get built back in 2018. I have not been back since because I'm waiting for it to be reliable enough for me to know that it'll be open when I go. So hopefully, I guess we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, we're having an event there at the end of June, and we weren't going to ask for it for the ERT anyways because we wanted Phantom, but they basically straight up said, yeah, you can't have Steel Curtain as ERT, so they don't even know yet.
Yeah. It's all SNS. It's up to the manufacturer, really. They haven't handed it over to the park in like a year.
It's whatever the manufacturer winds up deciding. And hopefully on both ends from SNS and Zamperla, it'll be all good things. And thank you, Stunt Pilot 22, for the super chat as well. I remember riding Cobb with my dad and brother on a cloudy October night. The top of the top hat felt like being sent to the aether for a brief moment. Those foggy, because I'd never gotten a ride on Dragster where it was super foggy or anything like that. I think a special thing about Ka too, compared to Dragster, is that it's so far off away from the rest of the park that when you are up there, it is just pitch black when you look. Unless you look in the direction of the park, there's nothing around you. Whereas Dragster, of course, you're right dead center of Cedar Point, along with the lake being around you. But there's something really special about those Ka night rides that really cannot be described, honestly.
Oh, the night ride was like going into the stars.
Yeah, it truly was. But back to Zumanjaro, I remember just shaking back and forth, and that was probably one of the most surreal things I've ever felt. And I thought, oh, this must just be like a one-time thing. There's no way. But every single time after that, when I rode Zumanjaro with Ka running, you got that crazy shake. And when you got a dueling ride, my favorite thing was if you were in gondola 1, which is the furthest to the right when you're looking from the tower into the park, and you're on that right edge seat, you could practically reach your hand out and touch the people on Ka as they go down. And when you had a duel from that seat and you just like stuck your head out like this and you were looking up as they were racing down with you, there is no other ride that will ever be able to replicate that. That was just unbelievable. And it's a shame that it took so long for it to be able to actually run like that. That is probably one of the biggest tragedies about it all.
I remember when it was allowed to duel, I went out there and I just sat on Zumanjaro. I probably was like 12, 13 times. And the operator said, "What are you doing?" And I said, "I'm trying to get a duel." He goes, "You should have told me." And he picked up the phone, he called Ka, and he synchronized and that next ride.
Awesome.
It was amazing. So I didn't know you could ask for it.
Yeah, if you had a cool group of operators across both rides, they always tried to make it happen as much as they could. I know a few in particular, they would teach everyone on the crew, all right, you watch for when the Zumanjaro gondola gets to this fin on the tower. That's when you press the launch button, and it was synced up perfectly. So that was always really, really cool.
And a shout out to the Ka ops. That ride always had the best ops team. I mean, they always pushed the people out. Every year it was operating.
Even after they switched from the 4-train setup to the 2-train, well, the 1-station 3-train setup, honestly, it seems like that made throughput better. Just the way they ran it from there, because they were constantly pumping trains out nonstop. It was unbelievable. And honestly, that ride had to be probably one of the best crews to work on just from the outside looking in. So it seemed like a really high energy environment. I mean, you're listening to Safri Duo all day. That must have been pretty fun. Plus, you just, there's not a very long train, so you just get to run down, check all their restraints, and you're good to go. That must have been really something special to be able to do. But with that, before I don't want to, again, give no one else a chance. Do you guys have any other memories you want to share of Ka, Zumanjaro, or Dragster before I make our way into the chat? Sounds like it's time to go into the chat. Alrighty. So first, I want to give a shout out to Adrienne. I'm sorry, I can't read the second half of your name, but you sent a super chat prior to the stream starting. I want to thank you for that. But you're right. At least it was a quick drop. That was probably one of the nice things about it. It was a very kind of melancholic thing to see, especially from the perspective of the lake with the sunrise in the background. That is still probably my favorite shot I've seen of it, just because it's so peaceful, and it's like it's hard to describe. It's one of the most cinematic things I've ever seen. Especially
the hardest thing that was I wasn't ready for it. Me neither. I was thinking 7 o'clock, and we were getting ready, and I think we hit record 3 minutes before. And and I was sitting there, and I took my binoculars, I looked up at it, and I'm just standing there. I almost didn't see it. I mean, because it happened so fast, and I was so far away. The booms came seemed like 15 seconds after. So
it's funny because in the reel that I put on Instagram, which, by the way, I don't know how many of the YouTube viewers cross over there. That reel is about to hit 8 million views. So thanks for making that go viral. But what I did, because the first clip was the perspective of Ken, as I moved the booms up by a good 10 seconds, because obviously nobody has an attention span anymore. But when you hear it in the actual video, you're like, it took that long for you to hear the boom. It was unreal.
It was down before I heard the boom.
Oh yeah, long gone. It was long.
And I was like in shock because I was like, oh, it happened. It was like I wasn't ready.
I mean, you guys, if you saw the video, you saw my reaction to when it happened, because Austin happened to be filming a vlog clip as the boom went off. And I turned around, like, I freaked out because I was not ready for it at all. But we have a new guest now joining us. Welcome, Tom.
Is this thing on?
This thing is on. Welcome to the stream, Tom.
How do you do, everybody?
So, Tom, now that you are here, I'm going to ask you, before we continue in the chat, what are your favorite memories with the pair of record-breaking attractions that we just saw fall a couple days ago?
Oh gosh, I was watching a little bit of the stream before I joined on, and I had some time to think about this. And there's a few going all the way back. I remember when they were building this, and me being about 4 years old when the construction process started for this ride. I remember thinking, not knowing anything about comic books or who owned what or anything, and I see green and purple track, and I'm like, oh my gosh, we're getting a Hulk coaster. We have Batman, Superman, and the Hulk. So obviously it was not the Hulk, but it was still pretty cool. I remember, I think, if I'm remembering correctly, the Jackson Resident entrance was done away with for the construction process, and it never came back. But it was a pretty worthy sacrifice for that, and I'm very lucky to have ridden both of those rides so many times. And I love nothing more than especially visiting the park and bringing friends from college or from wherever else that don't get to go to the park very often and have had it on their bucket list to ride those two rides, and to be able to get them to being able to ride them was a pretty special thing. Because I know for most of us in here, it was pretty standard that we'd go to Great Adventure and ride Kingda Ka, but it's a bigger deal for a lot of people. It's a lot more meaningful because it's not something they do very often. So it was very cool to be a part of that. And then I don't think I'll ever forget those last few days before Ka closed. I hope there is never another theme park visit I have like that. But at the same time, it was so cool to see everybody coming together. So both of those rides and the other ones that close too will be severely missed.
So, when you mentioned that, it's kind of like rudimentary for us to go ride Ka and Zumanjaro like it's nothing. As I was reading through the comments of all the different videos I've posted of the Implosion, and I'm seeing all the people mentioning the fact that they never got to ride it, it kind of made me take a step back and realize how lucky I am to have been able to ride the tallest roller coaster in the world and the tallest drop tower in the world hundreds upon hundreds of times.
64 times in one day? Was that it?
That was it. 64 times in one day.
That's absurd.
2 rollbacks, which I'll talk about the rollbacks later because that's a whole nother ordeal. But to have that opportunity when there were so many other people who didn't get to, that, it kind of makes it set in a little more that, we are very lucky to have such record-breaking attractions, or at least we were, to have such record-breaking attractions just down the road for most of us. That was a really special thing. And I know someone who these rides, specifically one of them, was really special to is John. John, welcome to the stream.
A+ segue. That was an A+
Zumanjaro.
Yeah.
So, John, while we're on the subject, obviously you went by the mantle of Mr. Zumanjaro, King of Zumanjaro.
Yeah.
How many rides, I know it's probably sad to think about, how many rides did you wind up getting on Zumanjaro before it met its untimely end?
10 for this year.
No, I mean like lifetime.
Oh, lifetime? 2010.
Wow.
4 more rides and you would have had its birth year.
No, yeah. I was kind of gunning for that. I kind of, yeah.
So I'm curious from your perspective, right? Because you were somebody, again, who's a massive fan specifically of Zumanjaro. How did this closure hit you? Because I'm sure you probably felt a little sadder about Zumanjaro rather than Ka.
It hurt. Yeah, I've said it. I kind of, weirdly, I don't know why it said, I kind of felt like it was the death of my 20s, just because that's where I spent majority of time there, riding it from last 11 years, well, 10 years. Just riding it every day, trying to hit those goals. Originally, 2000 wasn't in the cards, but then I said, there were certain circumstances that I said, let's just go for 2000. And yeah.
So you're obviously, we don't have anyone else in the stream here right now that was going for numbers like that. What inspired you, for starters, to pick Zumanjaro as that ride? And what kind of gave you that motivation to just keep doing it and doing it over and over again?
So 11 years ago, I'm a cancer survivor of 11 years. And when it was announced, that was kind of one of the things that I really strided for to ride and try to inspire me to beat the cancer and really try to really say, I want to ride that ride. And when I did, I just fell in love with it. I was one of the things I was yeah, this is definitely one of my favorites. Definitely. In the entire park for my perspective, but.
That's amazing that you had such a strong motivating factor that it was able to get you, through such a tough time. That's really, really awesome, John.
Yep.
But thank you for sharing your story. I'm sure you have a lot to say about Zumanjaro and Kingda Ka. We're gonna, because I know there's a lot of stories I'm seeing pop up in the chat. We're gonna keep rolling through the chat here and try to find everyone's different stories that they have about Ka, Zumanjaro, and whatever else we wind up talking about. Let's see here. I've cried every day because it feels like I lost someone. I have never felt this way about a ride. I mean, like we said, people have unbelievable attachments and, melancholy for these rides because they mean so much to so many people because of the kind of status they held in the parks. It was amazing. It really, really was. And I got a super chat here.
Yes,
Tom's got the horn going now. Thank you, Zach, for the super chat. Enjoy your nightly ice cream. I don't have it right now. I don't think I'm going to be having it today. And everyone stay tuned for that rollback story. Long live the king. P.S. I'm definitely not wearing the hoodie right now. Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure.
That's great.
Thank you, Zach. We will be talking about the rollback story a little bit later on once we roll through some of the chat here.
Did you know?
But first, let's see. Where was I? How's everyone's weekend been? It's been something. With the implosion happening on Friday, as strange as this might sound, it almost kind of felt like a weight was lifted off my shoulders because I've been waiting so long for this to happen and been so stressed about being able to catch it. I mean, I'm sure everyone here knows the kind of fear I've been having about missing it and, not getting the right shot. And in a way, I'm kind of glad that it's over with and that it happened. Obviously, it doesn't take away the fact that it's an incredibly sad set of circumstances that, they're gone now. But at the same time, it was really kind of beautiful to watch it come down in such a elegant fashion. Again, huge props to CDI for making that happen as perfectly as it did. I didn't see anything that could have been done better.
A lot of work and planning went into getting those shots.
Yeah.
And,
yes, lots of Google Earth and scouting and waiting.
And a cork board with red string and all.
Oh yeah, it was quite the struggle.
But it was very beautiful, and it happened really fast. And I mean, the whole thing was perfect. The whole thing was perfect.
Yeah,
100%. Didn't they remove 4 No, Great Adventure removed 2 coasters at the end of 2024, being Kingda Ka and Green Lantern, because Zumanjaro is not a coaster.
No, yep.
Apparently, the Maverick Heartline roll is in my basement.
Did you check?
I didn't. I guess I got to go check after the stream, or maybe I'll go get my dad to go check that out. I didn't know that. Let's see. Looks like a lot of people complaining about what they think it might be in terms of the 2026 coaster, which isn't really what this stream is about. We'll talk about it eventually, I'm sure. Here we go. I have a Green Lantern memory. The closest I sat to the back was the 7th row. That actually is the back row, so you did get the back row. Congrats. We didn't make it a quarter up the lift, and we got evacuated because a phone was taken out, and I got a free skip for it. Well, I'm curious.
They gave out skips. Are they evacuated for a phone?
That's
crazy.
Yeah, I don't know if they would evacuate. There must have been something else. Actually, if that happened this year, I know exactly what day you're talking about because it went viral on TikTok of everyone walking down the lift hill of Green Lantern. So, there's that. Let's see. Only got on one time, sadly, during May of this year. Oh, look what Ken has. Wait, show that again? What is that?
Oh, that's a ticket.
That's old.
They used to give you when you entered the line, the tickets were numbered, and you had to give them the tickets in number when you got up to the ride, so they knew you didn't cut the line.
Wow.
And they didn't take this one away, so.
Well, we got another super chat.
Oh.
Thank you, Adrienne, for the super chat. Really appreciate it. I told you last stream that it would be February 28th at 7, and you did.
You called it.
You were pretty much dead on. It did happen a little early, but you were dead on. I know it was supposed to happen around 7 anyways. Let's see. Where was I? This is always the fun part of the stream, trying to figure out where I was in the chat. Let's see. I think Zumanjaro's long walk to the queue made the ride bad. I would say quite the contrary. I honestly think, obviously, a lot of people didn't like having to make the walk. I think that added a lot of character to the ride. It felt like a journey for you to get on it. It wasn't something you could just, I'll go walk down, do it once real quick, and then ride something else. No, when you were down there, you were making an effort to get down there. I know, John, you made that walk probably not as many times as other people, because I know you sat on the ride for a very long time. What was the longest set of consecutive rides that you had on it without getting off?
I was gonna say, hopefully you didn't have to walk too many times.
So, the longest I ever sat on versus the longest Zen rides. So the longest I've ever sat on was 60 times.
Wow.
Jeez.
Yeah, I was trying to go for 100, but like weather interfered. But
You ever get stuck up there?
no.
No.
That actually brings up a good point. How many of us got stuck on Zumanjaro? Because it wasn't uncommon, but it wasn't common either.
I was just gonna say, like a quarter of the way up, not like all the way up.
Okay.
But the other story is my most Zen rides ever on it was 20 in a row.
Wow. That's awesome.
Yeah, and that was only because I guess so when I got there for the day, I guess it was down for technical difficulty, so they closed the line, the front of the queue, and I guess the ride ops forgot to open the queue, so it was literally just me on the ride.
It's funny. I've seen that happen a couple times because I guess they don't feel like, either having someone make the trek or making someone from COD do it. So they're just like, oh well, eventually someone will come down. Because I remember I was riding it a bunch of times. I think this was in either 2023 or 2024. And, we finally were like, yeah, we're going to go ride Ka or something. And we walk up and the entrance is chained off after we were just marathoning it. I was like, oh, all right. So free rides.
Yep.
But back to what I was saying about getting stuck on Zumanjaro, I remember vividly, it was probably not very long after it opened, maybe 2015, where actually, I'll resume this after the super chat.
Yep.
Thank you, Joe, for the super chat. I'll always remember sitting front row on Ka, staring down the launch track with that intense feeling building, just to wait to hear arms down, head back, hold on, long live the king. And that feeling was always accelerated by the years of 2014 to 2021 when Ka and Zumanjaro could not run together. So there would be a lot of times where you were on Kingda Ka and you would just be sitting, waiting and waiting and waiting at that launch track. And that was the period when I first rode Kingda Ka. So I remember we did get waiting quite a bit, especially on my first ride. We were sitting there for quite a bit waiting for Zumanjaro to go. And that tension just builds up more and more and more. Honestly, I think it made it kind of better just from a ride experience perspective because you're sitting there with all that anxiety just continuing to build up more and more until eventually you're out of there. So that was always a really fun sensation.
And getting to wave to everybody, that was pretty fun. Like you try to wave at the people on Zumanjaro.
Yeah, it's always fun. And then they would definitely not be able to see you.
Right.
I still remember being on Zumanjaro and looking down. I think I saw Bob taking pictures of us, and I'm trying to wave to Bob. I'm yelling at him. No way he could hear me, but in my mind he could. Another super chat.
Yeah.
Thank you, Brian, for the super chat. John, get to work.
Done with work.
John is done with work, Brian. Let's see. Where was I at in the chat? It was past that. Let's see. Here's an unrelated to Ka question. Jason, how is Florida?
Busy.
Busy.
Let me see. 2 parks. So 5 parks in 3 days.
Jeez.
Average of 27,000 steps a day.
That's quite the commitment to make for parks. That's for sure.
It's fun. Universal crowds are they make you want to have a road rage while walking.
Oh, they're
Well, it's we talked about that when we were down there, Colin, because remember we were saying how there's so many foreigners that don't know in America we walk on the right side. So and there's so many intersecting streets there, especially at the old park, that it's just people just crisscrossing constantly, and it's so
Americans do that too.
Yeah.
Well, everybody walks like a bunch of morons, but still.
Right, that's universal. Universal across people, not universal the park.
Right.
Yeah. Their Harry Potter lands have pathways that are like 6 or 7 people wide for a park that has like 20,000 people in it. Well, just weird, very weird. But
It's got to be thematically
Disney. Disney, it's different though. You don't get cut off constantly at Disney because it's all you get cut off by maybe small children, not large.
You get run over by strollers.
Strollers, yeah. Strollers
Take-
everywhere.
Take strollers.
I
to
didn't
the
get run
ankle.
over. I didn't get run over by a single stroller. Not even close.
Probably because you went at the right time of the year where most little kids are not going.
Oh, there were a lot of little kids. I'll tell you that.
Okay.
More than I thought. I was like, why? You all should be in school. And yeah, for those in the stream, if you're thinking about when you become an adult and you get children, if you're thinking about letting your kids take off for school to go to Disney, don't. Have them stay in school. Oh, it blurs it. Yeah.
You make it worse.
It makes it better for me.
Like Jason.
Or Sammy.
And Sammy. I remember watching so many POVs of Ka and finally riding it for the first time in June of 2024. It was a dream come true for me. Well, it's a good thing that you finally rode it in June because you were just a couple months shy of missing it forever. So I think this also acts as a really good kind of analogy for people too, where if you put off something that you really want to do for too long and you wait too long, eventually it's going to be gone. So appreciate it while it's here. Take advantage of it while it's here. Experience it while it's here. Because you never know when, by the snap of fingers, it will be gone. Just like Infinity War with Thanos. Gone instantly. Let's see. Oh, boy. This is an interesting one. Kingda Ka's height, 456. Player 456. Kingda Ka. We've played these games before. Although I don't know that Ka's been blown up before, so I don't know that it's played those games before. For those of you that don't understand the reference, it is for Squid Game.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. Not a Squid Game reference is crazy.
Did you ever ride the Soaring Eagle at the old base camp? So I did not, actually. I saw it. But
I also didn't.
It's also because I didn't do the safari very much once it became off-road adventure. Not because I didn't like it, but there was more of a unique feel to taking your car through. And even when it was the car, I didn't do it that often either because I'm there for coasters mainly. But I wouldn't spend that much time at Camp Aventura. I would kind of just stop in and be like, all right, let's go. So I never got to do Soaring Eagle. Did any of you guys do it?
I did it.
How was it?
It was okay. I don't really remember much about it. It was
just a zip
it was
line.
so short.
I'm not a zip line guy. They kind of eke me a bit, so never did it.
They're fun. I did it once at Great Adventure and like once or twice at the other version in New Jersey at Diggerland. They're fun. You only get you get like a seat that's tilted you forward and you just have a seatbelt, so you feel like you're going to fall out. When it pulls you up, it's really fun.
Yeah, I mean, I have not done like I have done some zip lines actually. And I know there were a few other Six Flags parks that had those too. I know Fiesta had one at one point. I don't think it's still there. I remember seeing it in 2020, but I think it was gone by 2024. But they were cool. I don't really think they have a place at a Six Flags park, kind of like the upcharge attractions. Anything low capacity like that really just has no reason to be around at a park that big, even if it's an upcharge. My first ride on Cobb was in May of 2005, a week or so after it opened. Orange Train, third row. We got lucky, got in line when it was short during downtime. Ka opened right after that. We waited about 45 minutes. It is a major feat to have been able to ride Kingda Ka in its opening year because I'm sure Ken can attest, because I think he's probably the only one that was there around that time, that the lines were absolutely unbelievable for Kingda Ka back then.
And then it shut down for most of the year too.
Because it had a couple weeks after it opened, it had the cable snap, and that's what eventually led to them completely cutting off the main queue that was inside the infield of the ride. That looked amazing, but they got rid of that for safety reasons. Oh, super chat. Thank you, Tom.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Brian, for the super chat. How do you think opening day will be with Kingda Ka not there anymore? It won't feel right. And I don't say that to be like, oh, the park will never be the same. I mean, it won't, but it's just not going to feel like Great Adventure. That's really the best way I can kind of summarize it.
Just coming into the
rides
parking
there.
lot. Just coming into the parking lot, you would be waiting to come into the park and see Kingda Ka right there. And
even as we were standing at Tommy's Inn, and I was sitting there, and I'm just kind of looking at where it used to be, it just felt so wrong. And then I don't know if you guys are active on Instagram, at least in the chat, but I had posted a side-by-side picture where I was at McDonald's right up the street on 537, and right out the window there's a cool shot where you got like the Pine Drive road sign with one of the stores and Ka looming over in the background. And I took the first picture about 2 days before the implosion, and then the second one was the day of the implosion after it happened. And just not seeing it there, it feels like the whole park is gone because the icon of the park just disappeared in the matter of seconds.
It's an icon of the town too, as someone who grew up in Jackson. It's funny too because like it was a rite of passage to go to Great Adventure as a Jackson resident, or even like if you were a teenager, like a lot of people had their first job there. I did. And it's funny too, there were a handful of kids who were too cool for Six Flags, and they're like, oh, it's overrated, but everybody was sharing about how sad they are about Kingda Ka. It's a big deal when the mainstream news is even talking about it too, and it's just like something that I never see people or it's something being shared by people who never have any interest in coasters. It's like it's broken beyond our community. It's like, oh, this is actually a really noteworthy thing.
And that's not something that happens very often with roller coasters. Even when you have like a huge coaster, like that's record breaking, this, that, and the other, it'll have maybe a couple seconds in the news, if that, nothing crazy. But to see the amount of, attention this has gotten on the news, and I'm sure if you guys do watch the news, you've probably seen my footage pop up quite a bit, which hopefully there's a Hollywood Studios watermark because that's part of the deal they agreed to. And if they didn't put it there, then they didn't break the deal, which a couple of them did. We've been having to handle that, which has been fun. But, to get texts from people who haven't even ridden Ka, but just know it as, this icon of New Jersey. And they're like, were you there? I think I saw you on the news, blah, 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 blah. It's crazy. It really is crazy.
I love my mom sent me the news clip of Phil on News 12. Did you see Phil made the news? I heard about it like 2 seconds after it happened. I'm like,
my mom texted me that morning and was like, oh my God, your friend's dad's on the news.
My mom texted us as she was at work. She had News 12 on. She's like, Phil's on the news.
I got a text from my mom saying, it's happening today. I'm like, oh, mom knows. Mom knows.
I'm curious, Bob, out by you, I don't know if you really watch news or if your parents watch the news much, but did they hear about it without you even saying anything?
So it wasn't on the news here, like per se, but I know like the next day my dad asked me about it and said, have you been on that? Did you see it was imploded, blah, blah, blah. And I was telling him the story about it. But yeah, I mean, for him my dad has no connection to coasters at all or coaster community. So for him to, hear that was kind of jarring for me a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. And, watching this kind of news storm break with Ka imploding, it was kind of crazy for me to see how many people had no idea that it even closed, because as we know, they did not want it very, public that it closed. And they definitely didn't really want the implosion public, which kind of blew up in their face, literally, when, the chopper caught it. Everyone caught the implosion. Everyone knew. But as I was going through the reposts, which there were a lot of those on Instagram, and people are like, wait, this is done? I didn't know my last ride was really going to be my last ride. It's really sad. And something else, too, I kind of came to the conclusion of is that they had this giant media storm of people covering Great Adventure like has not been done in years.
Not even for new rides.
A good time to announce the new ride, just saying. Even if it's not finalized yet, would have been a great time to market and capitalize on all that media attention, because now everyone has it in their head that Ka is gone, that they didn't announce it, because they all shared that they didn't really announce it. So I really, really wish a lot of luck to the people in charge of PR. That I will say. I wish them a lot of luck, because it's going to be very difficult.
I feel sorry for the people that saw the announcement that came out the night before saying it was going to be a certain time. And then they said another time. And then that wasn't even, everything was wrong. All the information that came out was wrong.
There was not a single bit of proper information shared about any aspect of this ride's demise, which is probably the craziest thing about it all.
From the event of it closing to the event of it being removed, literally.
Everything was all over.
It was either a lack of or a complete miscommunication.
And it's funny too because go ahead, Bob.
I would say I think they've underestimated how much money that ride brought them in every year by being a GP magnet and getting people to come there specifically for that ride. Like how I said, I didn't even know about Toro, and with Toro's issues over the last few years and everything else, like people are still coming there for COD, not for that. And what do you have to come there for now? Until you put this new ride up, you have nothing.
Yep.
It's going to be a struggle for them to market 2025. I've said that since the very beginning when this whole thing started. I mean, you have Flash, but you can't market Flash very much. It's North America's first Super Boomerang, but everybody is complaining that it looks slow and looks boring. It may be a great ride. We'll find out this month, very soon, actually. But that doesn't change the fact that people see that as the replacement for Ka, even though it's not. And I've noticed, too, the verbiage a lot of news outlets have been using is as if Flash is one of two coasters replacing Ka, even though Flash had nothing to do with Ka's replacement or removal or anything. So, honestly, it seems like Flash is going to get caught in the line of fire for no real reason, which is kind of sad for that ride. But it's a very strange, very, very strange situation that could have been avoided, not necessarily easily, but it could have definitely been deflected and avoided somewhat. It looks like we have another super chat. Thank you, Brian, for the super chat. Crazy to think that from 2005 to 2007, Chiller and Kingda Ka were at the park at the same time as they were. They weren't both open very much together, but they were there. And, you know, it's funny, too, because a lot of people are outraged about Ka's closure not being announced, rightfully so. Chiller's closure was not announced either. There are actually very few coasters in Great Adventures history that had their closures announced. Scream Machine, Rolling Thunder, I think that's it, honestly.
Yeah.
Most of the time, they just closed it. And when you went, as my dad says, you'd go back the next opening day and be like, oh, that's gone now.
Are we going to count Medusa? Are we going to count that they advertised that it was your last chance to ride it as you know it?
Oh, yeah, that whole marketing shtick.
It's a different world now, too.
Yeah.
It's true. Because now everybody's expecting, with the way social media plays such an important role in marketing for these parks, they need to capitalize it on. I mean, just think of what they could have done for the closure. I mean, I'm sure they could have sold these shirts and they would have gone like wildfire. You know, they could have
went like wildfire.
They did. The
so
second
if you
they
have
came out
one
during Holiday in the Park, it was like gone, just
it's
like that.
a collector's item, but if you have a spare 10 grand, you can get a wrinkly one on eBay.
We haven't talked about it yet, but the
I have that
helicopter
one
video
green.
of the implosion and the way it just fell apart into all the pieces.
Like in a perfect shape, too.
When it fell and it hit with such force that it broke every bolt is unbelievable.
Yes.
You got to find bolts all the way across the park.
Oh, yeah,
Tom,
100%.
the only thing I have from Ka is this murder weapon that I got at Thrillathon.
I've got, you know what? Let me turn my camera a little bit. Let's see if I can get to it. I have a
There
little
it is.
Ka shrine up there. That's a picture I took. I think that's the Friday before it closed. So we knew it was happening at that point, and so I have a shrine to it with a coin, a patch, a couple stickers, park maps from both Ka and Zoo's year that they opened. I have the Nano Coaster, along with the King Drink Coaster, and then select pieces of genuine Q-line bamboo.
Did I give you a Magnet as well, Tom? I feel like
Yeah, yep, it's on my fridge.
Yeah. While we're on the subject, so these shirts, the Long Live the King shirts, I'm actually going to be doing a giveaway at some point this week on Instagram. So I highly recommend you go follow me on Instagram, Hollywood_studios, and keep an eye out for that post. You won't miss it. You definitely won't be able to miss it. But in the meantime, until March 6th, that's the way Spreadshirt decided to structure the sale this time around, these are on sale for 15% off. So if you want to get one in time for opening day, now's not a bad time to buy one.
I have a feeling we're going to see a lot of those running around the park.
100. I mean, we already saw a bunch at the Implosion. I heard at the Ace event up in New England there were a bunch. So they've been everywhere.
I've seen them out in the middle of Pennsylvania.
Yeah, that too. Let's see. Here we go. This stream is giving the Oscars hella competition tonight. Hey, I'll
the
gladly
Oscars are on.
take views away from them. I couldn't care less about the Oscars, quite frankly.
I have it to the left of me.
Of
Sorry.
course you do. Why am I not surprised?
Well, I'm also watching the Devils game, so
Yeah, so like we all
Fair enough.
we all
I've just
have our vices.
keeping
man.
tabs. I've been
Jason,
keeping
what is the
tabs.
head behind you?
Oh, it's a poster of the Truman Show, one of the greatest films of all time. And
Oh,
it
I thought
pops
that
up.
was Sigourney Weaver for a second. I'm
No,
like,
it's literally just Jim Carrey's head. Like every so often, it'll just say like
It gets
like, there's
confused
Jim
between your
Carrey.
head and his
Yeah.
head.
yeah, it's like oh Jim Carrey.
Also, I saw someone in the chat. Starlet actually says Colin is making millions from these shirts. I actually really don't. The way Spreadshirt is structured, pretty much I put the logo up and that's about it. They do everything, so I don't really get much. I'm more so doing it because I like the design and I think it's important to give people a way to remember the ride, which seems like a lot of people are definitely doing.
So Spreadshirt's making the money.
Let's see. Kingda Ka would have had one more year of operation if the park was willing to remove Zumanjaro. No. The way Zumanjaro was attached to that structure, it was all going down or none of it was going down. That's really what it came down to. Let's see. What flat rides could we expect to come to Great Adventure? I hope something like Tundra Twister, like at Wonderland, could be added. That would be a cool ride to be at Great Adventure. My pipe dream has always been a dream at Great Adventure, which even if not that, I would love to see flyers because I love flyers. But now that we lost the world's tallest drop tower, Twister, Cyborg, Daredevil Dive, I don't think I need to keep going. We could definitely use a lot of flat rides. All we really have left is Wonder Woman and Sky Screamer and a couple of the small ones. So I would love to see some big, thrilling flat rides come to the park. You guys have any specific ideas?
Man, it's funny because it feels like the park solved that flat ride problem pretty decently over the last decade. Because that was like the same thing. We didn't have bumper cars for a while. We didn't have a scrambler, and then you got Adventure Alley and like a ton of good flats in the mid 2010s. But back to square one, sort of, kind of. It's a little different.
Yeah.
The flat ride collection is like decent enough, but there's so much gone now. I would love an Endeavor to come to the park. I think that's something we're missing. But definitely flyers too.
We need another war on lines.
We really do
Yeah.
at this point.
Yeah, I'd like to see us like a Skyfly or Skyfly because American Dream didn't build one when they built the park, and the only one in New Jersey, which was from Technical Park at Playland's Castaway Cove, is now gone after this season. So there's nothing like it in New Jersey. So that would be a really cool addition. And you could do like what Universal did and put two back to back for capacity.
Took me a while to grow my confidence with high thrill rides, and Kingda Ka not only represented something nostalgic in me, but a personal accomplishment. That kind of summarizes a lot of Ka really being like a rite of passage for people from New Jersey, Philly, New York. You know, if you're able to say that you rode Kingda Ka, especially when you're a younger kid, or even if you're an adult who is surrounded by people who are intimidated by a lot of things, being able to say that you rode Kingda Ka, the world's tallest and second fastest coaster in the world, truly a rite of passage right there. I still remember after I first rode it. Do you guys remember that shirt design they used to have that said "I conquered Ka" in like all big lettering? It was a very popular shirt back then. And I remember I bought it and wore it to school the next day. Like I was like, you know, the coolest kid ever, which I wasn't, but I do remember that. Thank you, Lewis, for the super chat. Any word on why not capitalize on the closure? As a public company, number one job is ROI for investors. Why not sell a ton of merch, Flash Pass, etc.? That's a really good question. And obviously, I don't work for corporate, so I don't know why exactly. If I had to guess, this is kind of the way I've kind of been trying to understand it as. Kingda Ka has a history of being very unreliable, as did Top Thrill Dragster and Accelerator, any of the Intamin hydraulic launch coasters. And they probably saw it as, if we advertise this ride as closing on this date, We're going to have people fly out from across the world to come ride it because that's the kind of audience Kingda Ka attracts. What happens when the inevitable happens and it's down or doesn't work or something along those lines? You have another PR nightmare on your hands trying to deal with people who planned vacations to come ride it and it's not open. So I think that probably had a big impact on why they chose to do it the way they did. Do I agree with it? No. I don't think anyone is really happy about the way they actually wound up closing it. But I do think that there were reasons why. I just don't know that they were super justifiable. You guys kind of agree with what I'm saying here?
I wonder if we see them retroactively like try to put out merch this year with like Kingda Ka's official logo 2005 to 2024. Like now that it's very much public that it's gone, do they try to like?
They did start doing that by selling a brick that has Kingda Ka's logo on it.
Yeah, they got some flack.
But
right, it wasn't dated or anything. It wasn't. Well, yeah, I'm sure people they'll be flack for it, but people will still buy it.
Oh, 100%. We're consumers.
Yeah, that's true. Consumers will just keep buying more and more products. That's the way it works. But thank you, Lewis, for the super chat. We got another super chat from Coaster Dude Nick. Do you think we could see a reimagined Skyway? I do. I just don't know when. That's the thing. I do think it'll happen eventually. But I don't know. I hope sooner than later because the Skyway is a really, really iconic ride. And that was one of, I mean, obviously Ka and Zumanjaro hit me more just because of the fact that I have such an attachment to them. But I have a feeling that once the Skyway is completely gone, I'm not even going to like realize it because it was such an important aspect and not having it there is going to be such a void. You know what I mean? It's tough. We do have, oh, go ahead, Jason. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no. Go with your super chat. I hear it.
We do have another super chat. Well, no, I know that the Skyway is very important to you, Jason. So go ahead.
Oh, well, like, see, that was the first ride I ever rode at Great Adventure, and I was scared of roller coasters for a very long time. So I would come as a season pass holder as a kid and just ride the Ferris wheel and the Skyway over and over and over. And honestly, that hit me a lot harder than like even Kingda Ka because it was pretty much my childhood. I've been riding it since I was like 2 years old. So when those towers come down, I will probably shed a tear.
Truly is probably one of the most iconic rides at Great Adventure just because it's always been there.
And it's so historical.
It's visible from almost anywhere in the park too. That's the big thing about it. I mean, it gave you views that you're never going to get ever again now. I really wish I knew that my last ride on it was my last ride, but oh well, unfortunately. But we do have another super chat. Thank you, Julian W., for the super chat. What did you prefer, Top Thrill 2 or Kingda Ka, and what is your opinion on Skyrish's new restraints? So Top Thrill 2 or Kingda Ka? I'm going to ask Bob and Ken first because we're the only three in the call that have ridden both. Bob, I'll start with you. Which do you like better?
It would be a better question if you asked Top Thrill Dragster or Kingda Ka again, but it's tough because like I don't have enough rides on either to really. I mean, we rode like 10 times or whatever on Media Day for Top Thrill 2, and that's probably about total Kingda Ka rides I've had over the years, 10 to 15. So, Top Thrill 2, like if it's reliable now, is for me would be more re-rideable just because I feel like Ka after a while would probably beat me up because I'm getting old now. But I don't know. That's such a tough call. I guess I'm gonna say Top Thrill 2 only because it does more. But the launch on Kingda Ka was incredible, like the best ever.
Ken, what about you?
I'm gonna go with Top Thrill 2. It was just more of an experience. You got the forward launch, then that insane backwards launch, and then that insane forwards launch again, and then being thrown over that top hat so fast and spinning down. It was a good ride. It was a really good ride. Good experience.
You know,
I hope it comes back and is the same.
As good as it was for us. You know, as much as I love Ka and I've been on the Ka bandwagon for so long now, especially with its closure, I can't deny that Top Thrill 2 is a slightly better ride. Slightly. When I say slightly, it's maybe 1 or 2 spots ahead of Ka in my rankings. But it does have a more complete ride experience. I will say this, though. if the heart lining of the trains, meaning if the height of the trains, the seats drop, I do not think I will still like it better than Ka. Because the big thing with Top Thrill 2 for me that made it so unbelievably good was the fact that the laterals and airtime you got on the top hat didn't feel right in a really good way. Because as Ken and Bob know, you got launched because, the twist and the spiral out of Ka, right? You're going to get some movement, but you're not going to go flailing around like a rag doll. On Top Thrill 2, because those seats were so much higher than the original dragster.
You
flailed around all over.
You were in line still. Do you remember my face coming
coming
down? Like it was because of that. It was because we got thrown over the top, and I was like, "What on earth just happened?"
Towards the back of the train, it was even worse. It was.
It was crazy.
Might be my favorite drop of all time. Top Thrill 2, 2024 in the back row. It's unreal. And like I said, I don't think they're going to keep the seats at that height. So
no, they're going to lower the center.
Chances are I may wind up saying Kingda Ka after this year. We'll see. And then for the second part of your question with Skyrush's new restraints, I'm a little mixed because it's funny because I'm sitting in Skyrush's seat right now. So I can kind of think about what it felt like while I was on there. The big thing about this seat is that the lateral bracing, I don't know if you could see it, the lateral bracing is very minimal. So on any of those lateral-based moments on Skyrush, you would go all over the place like this, that you had very minimal holding you in. Granted, the lap bar sucked. I didn't mind it as much as most people because I would just have one hand up and then the other hand pushing out on it so it wouldn't staple me and hurt my thighs. The new one, it's very, very comfortable. Like it feels like Velocicoaster. Problem is, it does still come down very tight on your thighs. I don't know if that's just the way the hydraulics are, but you definitely do still feel it on your thigh. Granted, the pressure is spread out over a much larger area compared to the original where it was just concentrated on the one spot. But the new seats are also bucketed a lot more, so you don't get this crazy lateral movement as much. I mean, you can kind of combat that by just like leaning forward a little bit, and then you still go flying. But I think there's pros and cons to both. I think overall the new restraints are definitely better. It's going to make the ride a lot more enjoyable for a larger variety of people as opposed to just us crazy coaster nerds that love pain if it means getting airtime. So
they did confirm at Winter Chill Out that they were not adding seatbelts to the new trains or to Siren's Curse.
That's good. Although I did see on Siren's Curse that it has a seatbelt.
It has like a harness thing. It's interesting.
Because that's how Flash is too. It has a seatbelt to attach to the restraint itself just from the bottom, like a B&M.
Mm-hmm.
But obviously no physical seatbelt under you. Thank you, Brian, again for the super chat. Question for Ken. What was the original queue like?
What was the original queue like? Well, there were no lockers. The locker building was built afterwards. So you came in there and the walk back was quite a bit. And then there was, right before you went under the track, there was a overflow queue there. And then you went under the track, over to the other side, and there was a shelter building. And that's where they had all the animal sculptures carved into the light posts. I think it probably about 10 rows of queue there. Go to Great Adventure History. They have pictures of all this.
Yes, they have a whole spotlight showing the old queue.
Yeah, and then you walked up. It took a long time to get through that queue if it was full, forever. I think I only got to go through the original queue twice.
Was it like covered or anything, or was it like wide open?
It was covered just in that one section after you went through.
Did being surrounded by like bamboo make it like really hot in there if it was warm outside?
No, because the bamboo was just planted, so it wasn't so big. Gotcha. There was actually a viewing area too, where you could actually go and watch Ka launch when it first opened.
That's right. I
still don't understand why they closed that off. I mean, I guess with the new queue setup, you walk literally right past where you get in for it, but there was never really an inherent risk of having people stand there and watch it.
I think it was probably the same reason they closed the queue.
Probably. I'm going to pull a Disney here. Well, I guess a reverse Disney. Just like how they do the split with Fast Pass and General Queue, I'm going to give a pause to the super chat messages for a bit so I can start getting through the standby queue here of all the questions in the chat because I feel bad. There's so many in here. I want to try to get through as many of them as I can. So I'm going to jump back up to Miku rides. My first ride on Ka was a trip to Great Adventure that me and my dad took. We were from Ohio and Cedar Point's Arnold Park. Really needed my hydraulic launch fix after dragster was standing but not operating, and it was phenomenal. So I'm curious, do you like, if you're still in the stream, did you like dragster or Ka better? Because that's always a big contention point. And I feel like, especially with Ka's closure, people started to say Ka more just because of that. But I mean, I thought Ka no matter what, because dragster was phenomenal. Believe me, I loved the lap bars and everything, but I've always thought Ka was a much more intense ride for whatever reason. So I'm curious what you think. Actually, that's a great thing to put as a poll in the chat. Let me set that
I was just
up.
going to say, somebody was recommending that.
Yeah, I'm gonna do that right now. It's a very good idea. But first, let me pull up another one here. I worked at the park from 2021 to 2023, and I always loved watching Ka run its test cycle in the morning, especially when the sun hit Ka perfectly. The best was watching Ka in the morning when it was running in boost mode, and you saw it just absolutely rip over the top hat, and then getting those rides after it was still warming up, well, kind of simmering down, I guess I should say, from having the boost on, and you would just go catapulting over the top. I mean, the negative G's must have been ridiculous.
This reminds me of us riding Top Thrill 2 on Media Day while the sun was rising. It was like the coolest experience ever.
100%. Truly, truly breathtaking. Let's see. The launch on Ka will never, ever be topped. By far the best launch I've ever experienced on a roller coaster, period. I have ridden, I got to check my credit count now. I can't keep track. I always forget because it changes so much. I have ridden 435 different roller coasters, many that are launched. And Kingda Ka still has my favorite launch out of any of them. And I've ridden a lot of the really extreme launch coasters, and Ka still is my favorite. It doesn't even matter that it was a little shaky, because honestly, that just made it more intense. And then the combo of the ridiculous acceleration and then the pull up into the top hat, crushing you with positive G's, dragster couldn't even compete with that. Top Thrill 2 doesn't even feel like that with the G's going up.
Not at all.
Ka only was the one that had that. So I'm curious from you guys, do you think Ka has the best launch that you've experienced?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a pretty easy. Yeah, it's easy.
And Bob, Bob and Ken, even with you guys having ridden dragster, you still like Ka's launch better?
Yeah, like I said, it's like 5, 6, 7 seconds longer it was, so like it just felt even more intense. And like you said, the G forces were incredible.
They just keep going.
Yeah.
And then that spray, the spray of water at the end, you don't expect.
Let's see. I'm so glad I got a Ka Nano coaster before I even knew it was going to go. I've yet to build it, but when I do, I think it's going to be emotional. So I heard, because someone reached out to me, it was even on Instagram or via email, they reached out to Coaster Dynamics to ask about if they had any more Coaster Dynamics of Ka in stock. And they said they don't, and it's all up to the park right now. So if corporate or Great Adventure, whoever would be in charge of that decision, decides to order more, then we'll get more. But otherwise, it's a rare item.
Thing.
Which hopefully doesn't inspire people to go on eBay and sell them for like $1,000.
Well, if the shirt's worth 10 grand, I think you can get at least 30 for the Nano coaster.
That's true. That's true.
I saw somebody selling Ka bamboo on eBay for $10,000.
Oh, man.
Holy crap.
I would re-ride by jumping in empty seats. My record was 36 in a row. My record for doing that without having to get off, I think it was 44. And I did that in exactly 2 hours because the locker didn't expire. Like we did it until the locker would expire, and it was 44 from what I remember. That was in 2024 as well. That's when I got a lot of my rides in.
That was the best thing because they had to keep the trains full. They didn't mind you re-riding. They asked you to re-ride.
Yeah, that definitely won't happen anymore.
I won't miss that though, when like you would have like 5 people on the train and then like 20 people waiting for row 1. It's like, we need more people to ride, and nobody would budge. I will not miss that. That was ridiculous.
Yeah, that was annoying.
Or if you got there first in the morning, you had to wait for enough people to come. You could wait half an hour before you could even launch.
Yep. That's why you always need like a comfortable amount of people there, so there's a constant flow of people coming on and off. Do Do you think anything like Ka will be built again in the future? Who would build it and where would it be? I don't think so, genuinely. And a big reason for that is Falcon's Flight, because the whole point of coasters like Ka and Dragster was to take the height record. That was their main thing. And they got the speed record too, of course. But getting the height record was their main thing. Falcon's Flight has crushed any chance of doing that with that kind of a structure. So parks will look at that and be like, well, what's the point? Why we even bother? Maybe if you're going for the height record in your country or your continent, but I mean, it's just not really worth it.
And nobody's going to do a hydraulic launch.
Right.
No,
Exactly.
unless Intamin or some other company really does something major in terms of evolving the technology, it's not going to happen. When is Q&A? Right now. Nice chair. Thank you. If you want to see how we built it after the stream, go watch the Skyrush chair build video. I'm actually pretty happy with how that one came out. I thought it was pretty cool. Let's see. When will they knock down the Lone Star? Hopefully soon, because it's sitting there doing nothing.
They should do it now while all the equipment's on site.
Yeah, I was gonna say
Bingo.
maybe the demo people haven't left yet.
It's true. Experiencing Ka for the very first time is just a great feeling. It really was. There's nothing like it. First time I rode it as a kid, it felt really accomplishing. I always used that to push myself to do other things. That felt a bit above the limit. I rode Zumanjaro just to say I rode the world's tallest drop tower, even though I was deathly afraid of heights. I remember my dad looking over at me and he said I looked like I was going to pass out. I am going to put a pause. I will get to your super chat momentarily, I promise. But I have a lot of standby queue, we'll call it, that I'm going to try to roll through. I remember in November of 2023, I was hanging out with you and Ace, and you two left 2 rides before I got a rollback. Oh, I remember that day too. That was awful. I vividly remember that day because I was getting really cold. I was tired. I think it was my second day there in a row because it was bonus weekends. And I was like, you know what? I'm tapping out. And then I find out literally 2 rides after I got off, the train I was on rolled back, and I probably could have kept re-riding. Thankfully, I got rollbacks, which I'll talk about those later.
I was gonna say you actually got 2.
Yes, I did get rollbacks, but I could have had them that much sooner.
Yeah, but if you ask your YouTube commenters, it was all staged.
Oh yeah, of course. Just
Where was my staged rollback?
Just like the implosion, I just CGI'd, the tower going down.
I was there for a photo shoot once, and they were trying to actually get it to roll back for the camera crew, and they just loaded the back of the train to try and get it to roll back.
Did you get a rollback, Ken?
Yes, I did.
Okay, good. I remember going with my mom when I was younger. I was pale as hell on the wait, and in the end, I loved it. I rode it 3 more times. The loss of Ka is extremely emotional for me and many enthusiasts. Very, very true.
Yep.
I remember watching so many videos of Kingda Ka. Kingda Ka was like one of the most popular clickbait thumbnail videos back in the day of all those stupid countdowns.
I remember seeing commercials for it everywhere when I was little, when it came out.
My favorite memory was riding Top Thrill Dragster when I was 8 years old. I was so excited I overran the entrance. It was down the last time because of the catch car shredding, so we had no clue when it would be open. My first Ka ride was in March of 2024. Ka represents an accomplishment. Nothing will compare to the feeling of being pulled at around 120 miles an hour. I feel so lucky. And I feel lucky too, especially after realizing how many people that wanted to ride it never got to.
Yeah.
My most memorable ride on Kingda Ka was my first ride. I had no idea what to expect. And besides from jamming my chin into the shoulder bar, I really enjoyed it. That doesn't sound very enjoyable.
That sounds horrible, yeah.
I remember my first ride on Kingda Ka, opening day 2022. I rode front row, and that launch was incredible. I was so nervous, but once the ride ended, I was forever hooked. Let's see. During Fright Fest, my 2 friends and I went on Ka, but since it was the 3 of us, one of us had to sit by ourselves, so we decided to try to find someone in line to ride with us. He was a drunk man. Oh, okay. You'll find that a lot during Fright Fest.
Yep.
Dear Kingda Ka, you will be missed. Your tall green track, our memories on it, wheel list. Oh, this is a poem, isn't it? May your legacy live on. The whole 456. Goodbye, Kingda Ka. We'll miss you to bits. Thank you for this stream. That was a very, very nice poem.
Well done.
Thank you for that. Let's see. I remember riding Ka with my dad and brother on a cloudy October night. The top of the top hat felt like being sent to the. Oh wait, I already said this one, didn't I? I remember seeing the Aether.
Yeah, it's still cool though.
It is still very cool.
Yep.
I remember waiting 3 hours to ride the front for the first time, and it broke down when me and my buddy were next in line. Luckily, they fixed it. All the waiting was worth it. Front row was an experience. It really was crazy how different front row was from every other seat on the train. I mean, row 2 was definitely the most comparable, but front row was genuinely one of the smoothest coaster experiences you could have, which was shocking for the fact that it was 19 years old in the end, and you were going over 120 miles an hour, 450 feet in the air. The fact that it was that smooth in the front row was mind-blowing. I still think that front row of Kingda Ka was smoother than any seat on Top Thrill Dragster. Can't say the same for the rest of the seats, but the front row was very smooth. I remember riding Kingda Ka in 2019, but I was really young at the time, so when we came back for the second to last weekend this year, it was really special. Thanks to everyone who let us know it was closing. Glad I could help out. Oh, this ought to be an interesting one. What does Colin do for a living? Wrong and funny answers only.
OnlyFans.
Feet pics.
That took a turn quick, didn't it?
You cannot give us an open-ended question like that.
That is true.
It's pretty good. It's a pretty good setup.
Ken, let's hear a more level-headed answer from you.
Am I supposed to make something up, or am I supposed to tell the truth?
Well, it's wrong and funny answers only.
Oh. I'm not going there.
Tom, I'm sure you got something clever, knowing you.
You know what? I got a stew on that one. What would you do? I don't know. I do like the OnlyFans answer, but maybe make it something more vague, like, oh, I'm a content creator.
Yeah, content.
True.
Oh wait, that's true.
It's like you say you have a link in your bio, but you don't say what that link is, but it's just understood what that link is.
Okay, we're gonna move on before it gets too beyond PG-13 here. Watching Ka and you duel was amazing. Even better when you were on Zoo and got to duel with Ka. That is very, very true.
I got.
Do you have to send money for a Q&A? No, they just get priority. Which, speaking of, let me go down and catch that super chat that I skipped out on for a little while. Thank you, Brian, for the super chat. Question for Colin and Tom. So John and I are planning on going to Busch Gardens, Williamsburg in June. Which row should we sit on for Pantheon?
I like the front better on that.
I also really like the front.
I'm usually a back row guy, but I really like the front.
It's pretty equal on that, I would say. Definitely try both, but they're very equal in my opinion.
I like the front for that first roll, though. That's really fun.
Yes, yeah.
But the back for going all the way up the spike is kind of cool too.
Yeah.
Yes, the spike in the back,
Ride
and then
both.
the drop off the top hat is unreal in the back row. I
It's
still
actually-
remember I lost my badge for the Ace event I was there for on one of my back row rides.
Oh, that's right. I remember this. And you were
Yeah,
like, oh
and
my
I just
God,
had to,
will
like-
I be able to go around?
I had to just keep convincing them that I lost it, even though they seemed to kind of believe me, kind of not. Let's see if I can find where we were. This is always very difficult. Oh boy, there we go. Found it. What will the first thing be that you do on opening day? See, I would say ride Flash, but I don't think I'm going to need to rush right to it on opening day. So probably film. That's probably going to be the first thing I do on opening day. Usually the way I do it is opening day is a big content day where I'm going to be running around trying to capture as much content as I can. So if you see me, chances are I'm trying to rush to get content done on opening day because that's usually how it goes.
So
And then
leave
once
me
I get
alone.
that all done, then I get to go ride stuff. What'd you say, Bob?
So leave me
So
alone.
leave me alone. Is that what you're telling people?
No, but I will be in a hurry. We'll put it that way.
Opening day usually requires plenty of patience.
Yes.
You mean
Yeah.
you'll be in
Oh,
a
yeah.
flash?
I'll be in a flash.
Uh-huh.
Yes, I'll be in a flash.
In and on the Flash.
Let's see. I think I could see Lightning Rod get removed this year. Definitely not. They just put a bunch of money into it to get rid of the launch and put the lift hill on it so that it's more reliable. That is not going
And
to
it
happen.
has been by far.
It has, yeah. So it sounds like, according to Adrienne, who says they work for CDI, that we'll be getting a combo video for the parachutes and Ka demo. That'll be something to look forward to. Let's see. I only started riding Ka in 2022, but for only 3 seasons, I was able to get almost 1,000 rides on it. Wow. And I always look forward to my next visit just for Kingda Ka. Well, unfortunately, your next visit will be lacking Kingda Ka. That sounded really depressing. Wow.
Yeah, it did. Thanks.
I agree.
Hey, Colin, I've ridden Kingda Ka over 300 times in 2 seasons, and I got the last train ever on Ka. Well, congratulations for that. I know, at least, I don't remember, Ken, what train were you on in sequence, like getting towards the last one? You were on one of the last ones, right?
It was near the end. I didn't rush to go get the last train.
I knew I'd get on. I just wanted to get my desired seat for my last ride, and my last ride was very special, that I must say. It was in probably my favorite seat on the ride, which was row 2, the left side. And it was a pretty cool full circle moment because the operator who was checking my restraint, he is now much higher up at the park now, but he was a team member and then a supervisor back when I first rode Ka, and he had always been there operating Ka for as long as I could remember. And it was really like kind of cool full circle to see him check my restraint for my final ride. That was really, really cool.
It's also the rain was coming in, and you also know it can break down at any time. So it's like,
and it was funny too because the only time that we were in a big drought at that period, and the only time it rained was for about 5 minutes right after Ka closed. It was a slow drizzle, almost as if the gods were crying because Ka was dead.
Yeah,
obviously not, but that's what it felt like. Ka was my favorite. I'll never forget the adrenaline rush after my first ride. I never thought I'd ever go on it when I was younger. Have a couple good memories riding it with my brother. Long live Ka.
And speaking of rain, I did get to ride front row in the rain one time.
Me too.
That must have
Never
been
again.
That's painful.
It feels like needles going.
Man, it would have been a great fantasy football punishment. Like if you lose, you have to ride Kingda Ka front row in the rain. But unfortunately, it will never be.
You get red dots all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I really remember that. Oh yeah, not fun, fun, but not fun from the pain perspective. And this kind of reminds me that I am working on putting together a video. I'm extending the deadline for the clips to be submitted until tomorrow night. But if you guys have seen the Public's Thoughts series on the channel before, this is very reminiscent of that, where essentially you are going to be sharing your favorite memories of Kingda Ka or Zumanjaro, much like what we're doing in the stream right now, except it'll be immortalized on YouTube forever. So if you are interested in partaking in the video, it does involve you filming a video of yourself very briefly, no more than 40 seconds, sharing your thoughts on Ka. Shoot me either a DM on Instagram or a email at KaliwaStudiosContact@gmail.com, and I'll send you the details if you're interested in being in it, if you didn't already. Just wanted to get that out there because I know not everyone follows me on Instagram here, so just wanted to make sure you guys heard about it. Let's see. I went on Zumanjaro when I was 7, when I was just tall enough. I never rode it again because I was too scared. I never rode it again. When I became an enthusiast, it was already closed forever. That is unfortunate.
Wow.
Will they cut up pieces of track and sell them from Kingda Ka? If so, how much will they be? That is still unknown right now. We really don't know. I hope they do. If you want to go off of how Cedar Fair has done it in the past, Bob, how much did they sell the Maverick slivers for, the Heartland roll?
They were expensive as crap. Were they like 300 or something?
Oh, my Lord.
They were way up there.
Sorry.
I don't think they would want to sell them for that much. If it
it was pretty expensive though. It was at least, I think, 200.
And that sounds about right, somewhere in the 200 to 300 range. I know Wicked Twister, they did the same thing. Mean Streak did the same thing. Vortex, so they've had a history of doing it.
Oh, I have a piece of Hurler from King's Dominion. I think that was only $25, so that was very reasonably priced.
Wow. I have pieces of Wildcat at Hershey and Rolling Thunder Great Adventure, and probably a few other things laying around.
I have Rattler and some other things too.
The closure of Kingda Ka hits harder than Volcano the Blast Coaster, Big Bad Wolf, and Dragon Challenge. You're probably right. Granted, I wasn't really around for the closure of Big Bad Wolf. I never got to ride Volcano or Dragon Challenge. I did see Volcano. I was right next to it. It was just a couple months after it permanently closed unannounced, kind of like Ka. But yeah, I think Ka's closure definitely has a really big impact on the community just because of what a presence it was. Let's see. Only had dual rides filming Zumanjaro's commercial, and they said they would be the only ones ever. So I was surprised when they started doing that. They made a modification to Zumanjaro's gondolas. They added, like, if you noticed in the later years, it had like this black kind of cage over the top, and that was kind of designed so that it would catch any loose articles. Oh yeah, Bob, I'm guessing you know that your webcam
utility.
Yeah. But they had that design so that the idea was
we're going to the crappy one.
That okay. Oh man, you're far away. Holy crap.
Yeah, I couldn't get the I have the new camera, like the really expensive one, and I couldn't get it to like recognize like a USB plug-in for the power. So like it was just on battery. So yeah, we're gonna just go to the really crappy one now and just hope for the best for the rest of the giant flare behind me here.
Super overexposed Bob here.
That was going to
now Bob's in like his dungeon.
Now he's like,
then you won't see the rest of the setup then. It's fine.
But yeah, they added that black cage over the top, and that's kind of what their logic was. Like, oh well, if something falls off a rider on Ka, it'll land in the cage as opposed to hitting someone on Zumanjaro. I guess that was kind of the logic.
Yep.
Let's see. Let's see if I can find. Oh yeah, here we go. Instagram comments on the Implosion post are the most GP thing ever. If you need some entertainment and you're bored, go to my reel, the one that has 8 million views now, and scroll through the comments. You'll find some great quality entertainment in there because, well, you'll figure it out. Let's see. Next up, I remember going with my mom when I was younger. I was pale as heck in the line. Oh wait,
you did read this one.
I did read this one.
Yeah, you read that already. Jeez.
My only rides on Kingda Ka were on Ka's second to last day of operation because you broke the news of the impending closure. The atmosphere was unlike anything I've ever experienced, and I got 6 rides. Well, I'm really glad that I was able to help you find out about it and get your last ride, your only rides in ever, because there's a lot of people who weren't fortunate enough to hear about the news and get their rides in. Won't forget my only 4 rides on Ka, which happened a week before it closed for good, and the friends I made while taking pictures of it in the parking lot during golden hour. Long live the king. Long live the king indeed. I loved my rollback with my friend in 2023. Well, this kind of acts as a nice segue to talk about the rollback rides. So correct me if I'm wrong. The only 2 of us in this call that have gotten Kingda Ka or dragster rollbacks is myself and Ken, right? Bob, you didn't get one?
No, I never got a dragster one either.
Okay. So Ken, when was your rollback? Where were you riding? But first, we have a super chat. Thank you, Emmanuel, for the super chat. My first ride on Zumanjaro, I watched Ka rollback. I was on the very left seat of the left gondola. Oh, that is awesome. Oh my God. That's got to be perfect because as you're going up, you're looking and they're coming up over you and they go right back down next to you. That's got to be sick. But Ken, back to what we were saying about the rollbacks. Go ahead and describe.
I was on a work trip. I took everyone from work to go ride everything at the park, and we all went over to Kingda Ka, and it was a day in August, and it was like almost 100 degrees out. So Ka was being finicky because of the heat, and everyone else was waiting. This is when they had the stage stations, the front and the back, and everyone I worked with was in the front waiting, and Ka was being. It was down, technical difficulties. Everyone else got to ride, and they went over to El Toro, and I said, I'll be there soon. I'm going to wait this out. So eventually they got it going, and it was the second train. I was in the 3rd row, and we went out to launch. The train in front of us went up, went over. Then we launched, and we climbed up, and we get to the top, and we're just about to go over the top, and all of a sudden I feel, uh-oh, it's happening. We're going backwards. And we came down, and I was like, I couldn't believe it happened. I'm like, I just got to roll back. And they came out, the ride ops came out next to the train and made sure everyone was okay. And they asked if anybody wanted to get off. I'm like, nobody asked to get off. Because I knew we were going to get overlaunched when they launched it again. And so they brought us back, and they just launched. And that was like one of the fastest launches I've ever had. And then I went over to El Toro, and everyone from work was like, did you see that? It didn't make it over. I said, yeah, I was on that.
Oh, that was awesome. So my rollback story, it was October, I believe, of 2024. And the week prior, Zach, who you guys have seen appear in a few of the videos, got a rollback on Ka. He was, I believe, the first rider of the day on a Sunday, and he got a rollback. And I was so jealous because all I've wanted all these years was getting a rollback. And this was getting towards the time when I knew that Ka was, closing. And I was really starting to get upset because I didn't think I'd ever get one. I was so close to one on Dragster. In fact, I think I was about 4 trains away. I did film it at least, so there's that. I didn't ever actually film a rollback on Ka because my phone was always in a locker. But Zach told me that I should go to the park because it's been running slow and there's a decent shot of a rollback. I'm like, you know what? Fine. So I drove straight down from school, and it was a Thursday, I believe, during Fright Fest. Yeah. And we go over there. It was funny because we were talking to these other 2 guys, and one of which was Drew from Utah. And it was his first time at Great Adventure, his first time riding Kingda Ka. And he said, he was so excited for it. It was the main reason he came out for it. We were in the front row, Zach and I. I was on the right side. We were on Teal Train. Drew and the other guy were behind us in row 2. And when we launched, I instantly felt that it felt like it was hesitating. It didn't have full power. And I had a feeling, I was like, there's no way. Because I had been thinking all day about, what if I do get a rollback? There's no way that'll happen. It hasn't happened all these years. It's not going to happen. So we go up, and the train gets to right here. I'll tell it's right here, and then goes back down. And I'm sure Zach could attest for the noises he heard me make when that happened. I was words couldn't describe it. I really wish I used my watch to record the audio of one of the 2 rollbacks, because I knew when I got those. Well, when I got the first one, I was just shocked. I couldn't believe what had just happened because it was such a surreal experience. So we roll back in, and it was funny too because we were joking with the operators who we knew that it might roll back. And we were like, oh, I guess you were right. So the procedure was they brought you into the station, unloaded you back into the station, on the load side, and then they pull the train forward. Maintenance drops the dog, checks it real quick, rolls back into the station. You get back on, and you launch again. So same thing happens again, same hesitation in the launch. It went a little further, and there were a couple people that elected to get off after the first rollback. So a couple extra people got to experience the rollback for their first time, or for the first time that day at least. And on the second rollback, I kind of got to analyze the forces a little more and kind of feel it. And for those of you that have ridden either Mr. Freeze or Batman the Chiller, the inverted top hat is kind of what I compare it to the most, because of that sensation that you're just floating out of your seat for so much of it, especially being in the front row. That is the best, or was the best seat to get the most airtime out of a rollback, because you have the most distance forward. So when you get whipped backwards, it's like being in the back row of a forwards facing ride. You just get thrown out of your seat. And after that rollback, I got emotional because I knew that was the first set of rollbacks and the only set of rollbacks I would ever get on it, because I knew obviously that we were so close to the end. So I will never forget those 2 rides, because it was something I had wanted for so long. And to get it, it was truly an experience. Really, words can't do it justice. I know Zach definitely would agree seeing that happen.
And I did think when we were coming back down, I said, I hope those brake fins are up.
2022 opening day rollback. I do remember that one. So congrats if you were on that one. I do remember seeing that. You should return to Hollywood Studios and Animal Kingdom to ride Rise of the Resistance and Expedition Everest. So I went to all of Disney in 2016. So I have been, and I also went to them in 2010. But I have not ridden, or I have not experienced Pandora. I have not experienced Galaxy's Edge. I have not experienced the new Toy Story Land. I think that's basically everything big I haven't experienced. Oh, and Mickey and Minnie's. Just quite a bit from both of the parks. I'm sure I'll get back there very soon. But I have ridden.
I just broke down on that.
Let's see. For those who weren't there, this is referring to the Implosion. The one thing those videos do not give justice is the sound. It was loud. It really, really was loud. We have an audio recording of it. Let me see if I could. Oh, wait, hold on. We've got a super chat. Thank you, Zach, for the super chat. Going back to that guy from Utah, the funniest thing was it was his only 2 rides on Ka ever. He never cleared the tower.
Wow.
That is one of the funniest things about that. He never got to ride it again because he had
batting 1,000 on rollbacks.
I mean,
That's
honestly,
crazy.
if I had to pick between my 2 rides being rollbacks or my 2 rides being full circuits, I'd probably take the rollbacks. I do think rollback Kingda Ka is something that probably was overall a little better than real Kingda Ka, just because it was partially the shock value, but also the forces you got were absolutely unreal.
So what you're saying is that new ride that may be coming.
Just maybe it may be a little better than a lot of people are expecting it to be. Just maybe. But back to this, yeah, it was loud. I'm not going to pull up the recording now, but if you watch the vlog from the Implosion day, the second time that the angle from Tommy's in plays, the one that's vertical, that audio was swapped out to have the really good recorded audio of the booms, and it is just unreal the way that thing sounds. Whenever I hear that sequence of explosions in like a video, I just instantly get teleported right back there. It's like PTSD. It's insane. Let's see. It wasn't even about the forces on the rollback that made it special. It was the rarity. Yeah, 100%. The forces were just an added bonus. Like Ken, so you had your one in row 3, which is a pretty good spot to have a rollback to. Do you remember the forces?
I remember when you got down to the bottom of that tower, how like you got slammed into the seat. Your restraint came down hard.
Oh yeah, big time. But a lot of times, especially if you get one, you're not going to be able to even process the forces because you're so enamored by the fact that you got the rollback. Because it was not very common. It was pretty rare. Oh, I remember the 2 rollbacks days. I was there too. Well, too bad you didn't get a video because there's like barely any videos of that double rollback. I've been on 2 rollbacks on Ka and 1 on Dragster. Well, congratulations. I'm going to try to speed through this chat a little bit more because we have a lot to go through. Let's see. My favorite memory of Ka was riding it with my aunt, who I found out isn't going to be around much longer because of cancer. I'm sorry to hear that. Getting to experience it with her before her inevitable passing was special. Well, I'm very, very happy to hear that you got to have that experience with her. Thank you to Hollywood Studios for cutting through the rumor noise. Many people doubted that Ka was truly going to shut down, but I went on good faith of Colin's research and got on Ka one last time. Well, thank you for listening. I would not have shared that if I didn't believe it was true. And I think that goes for everyone that shares it.
Yep.
That shared it. And obviously that happened in the past. Let's see. I believe Great Adventure didn't know they were closing Ka until September. How did they plan a replacement so fast? If I had to guess, this decision was made right when the merger happened. And that is probably when the planning for the new ride was in motion. So it probably all happened at once, if I had to guess. Just trying to figure out the timeline. Because you can't get a coaster of the size that the new one is going to be overnight. Let's see. I get it. I am relieved it is finally gone. Sad that it is gone. But to see it being taken apart piece by piece for a month was stressful. 100%. Actually, I'm going to take a look at the poll we have between Dragster and Ka, and it looks like Ka is absolutely annihilating Dragster. Out of 152 votes, Ka has 80% of the vote. So, I mean, this obviously is a very great adventure-centric channel, but the people have spoken. Let's see. I've been riding Ka since I was 9. I'm 15 right now. So I've ridden Ka for 6 years. I felt so accomplished after I rode it for the first time. It really was a rite of passage for so many kids to get to ride, and even adults as well. Let's see. There's a lot in here. I am gonna have to start skipping a little bit. Why would they reward someone for filming on the ride? I'm not sure what this is in reference to. I mean,
we were talking about Green Lantern getting an evac because of a phone.
Got it. Okay. I mean, I guess that's not really a reward to most people. For us, it is. But look at it this way. If you're somebody who's never ridden Green Lantern, that was your only shot to ride it, and you didn't get to ride it because someone pulled out a phone, you probably wouldn't be too happy. Flash is fine, but they're marketing Flash like it's on the same level as Ka's replacement. They're like, oh, we have our brand new Super Boomerang in 2025 and our launch coaster in 26. I think a lot of that comes from the media mischaracterizing what Flash really is, because when you look at Great Adventures press releases themselves, they never try to make Flash out as being some crazy, unbelievable thrill ride. They even mention that it's a family thrill ride, which we'll find out if that's really true or not when we ride it. But the problem is, as we all know, the media, well, they're not very good. They tend to over-sensationalize everything and not do their research. I mean, I've learned that very quickly over these past few days with all the outlets that take footage after they email me and ask me if they can use it. And I tell them, sure, but just leave a watermark that says Hollywood Studios. I think that's the least you can do for using my footage. And then they don't credit you at all because somebody forgot to read that part. So it says a lot about the media industry. And the fact that they're so incapable of properly reporting on things as simple as stuff like this does not come as a surprise to me at all. Let's see. Imagine the long Zumanjaro queue being completely full. Yeah, that's probably one of the longest lines you'll ever wait in your life if that ever happened. Let's see. Colin and I got stuck on Zoo one night. Yes, we did. We were about halfway, 3/4 of the way up. We were stuck for a good 20, 30 minutes. It was a frightless night, so it was really creepy. And we were just sitting there waiting and waiting. And I don't remember if they dropped us from there or if they took us all the way up. That I don't remember. My dad probably remembers better than me. Have you ever gotten evacuated on a ride, and what's the story? We'll do this way. Out of everyone here, raise your hand if you've been evacuated on a ride before, off a ride before, I should say. Okay. Bob, let's hear your story first, because I got to go grab some more water before my voice gives out.
I got evacuated like 3 times in a row at Universal it was Men in Black first, and then we went over to Transformers, and that broke down. We got evacuated off that. And then I can't remember what the last one was, but it was, and they gave us like free one-time express passes, but we already had express passes anyways. So yeah, I was starting a morning at Universal by getting evac'd off 3 rides in a row, like halfway through. And then the other one, we broke down on Escape from Gringotts, and it was right in front of one of the scenes where Lord Voldemort was just doing this and like staring at you, and it just kept doing that over and over again for like 10 minutes straight. It was very unnerving.
You want to go, Ken?
I got Batman. They had to bring the platform out and you put in your feet and walk off. We got Superman during our Ride All Rides day, and I got the Mummy.
Oh, that's right.
I got the Mummy in the room with all the flames above your head, and it just kept going off and off and off. Eventually, they came and got us out and walked us through the back exit. And they said no filming. And of course, I didn't take any pictures.
No. I forgot we counted that Superman evac as an evac, even though we were literally just in the station and we had to get off with a step stool.
It was actually kind of terrifying.
I got stuck on the brake run for a Ricochet at Carowinds, and it's like 4 feet off the ground basically, and they wouldn't let me like jump down out of the thing. They made me take like a step ladder down.
Mm-hmm. I also I've been evac'd off Jersey Devil. In fact, I think a good chunk of us were on that
Same.
evac. That was one of the first few days that it was open. I've gotten evac'd off that. I've gotten evac'd off of Dark Knight right outside the return to the station, so it wasn't too far off.
Oh,
But
yeah, we
then-
got evac'd on Wonder Woman, Colin, even though it was like pulling out of the station. It was 8,000 degrees that day.
Which
then-
one?
The California.
Oh, that's right. That
Oh
was so
wait,
stupid.
yes.
Remember the
happened.
disaster? It was the disaster of like going back when they put us on the
Yep.
list for like a
Right.
free ride.
Oh, that was so stupid.
I think I repressed a lot of that memory, but it did happen.
Yeah.
And then I've also like led evacs when I was at Great Adventure. I worked Skull Mountain. I did lead an evac off of the like just after the first part of the lift. So within like the where you can see outside of the mountain, that first level of the lift hill. So we were within that. And then I led an evac off the lift of Runaway Mine Train. So that was pretty cool.
There are 5 evacs that come to mind for me, and they are all very different. So I will read the super chat after I finish it. The first one was on Boo Blasters at King's Dominion. We got to, I think, maybe the first or second room, and then just like that, all the power went out. And then the lights came on. They're like, yeah, we're just going to walk you through the whole ride. I was like, wait, really? So I walked through the whole layout of the ride. I wasn't allowed to film it, obviously, but it was really cool to see that. Then I'm sure a lot of Great Adventurians remember this. In 2019, the park lost power one day. And that was the day that like every single ride had to get evac'd. And just my luck, I happened to be on Mine Train during the evac, or during the power outage. So when we hit the brakes, it was one of the hardest stops I've ever felt in my life. And that's why every time I ride Mine Train to this day, I grab onto the bar in front of you to hold on at the brakes, just in case, because I was scarred after that. I got to walk along the nice sketchy catwalk back to the station, which was really cool. There were the numerous Jersey Devil evacs from the brake run in the early days of 2021.
Yep.
I'm sure most people got one of those. There was Wonder Woman at Magic Mountain, like Bob brought up. I almost forgot about that, but that does count, and it was really stupid. And then there was Pandemonium at Fiesta, Texas.
Oh wait, how did I forget
that one? I forgot about
How
that.
did I forget that?
That was something, man.
That was so funny. That was so
Tom,
entertaining.
would you consider that an evac for us? I mean, it basically was.
I guess you could say it was an evac for
It was
us.
more of an evac from the rest of the crew.
I mean,
I'm
with
more
what you guys had to
mad.
go through, it's spinning over and over again for like 10
No,
minutes.
that wasn't us.
Yeah, that was my dad's car. He was not,
Yeah,
and Dave's car too. They were not
James
happy
and
about it.
Nicole, yeah. That was really funny. And I was talking about this the other day too. How did I forget that?
There's probably more that have happened that I'm just forgetting about because it
Yeah.
happened a lot.
Oh,
more.
we didn't get evac, but we got stuck on Gemini for like a half hour, Colin. Remember?
Yes. Oh my God, it was
the
great.
dude
Everyone
pulled
was
his
taking
phone.
pictures up there.
So
It was
a dude pulled his phone out, and Phil got in the other train. He was going to race us, and they stopped our train in the station and sent his, and then we got stuck up top for like 20 minutes.
It was so stupid. It was funny though. And he was down on the ground trying to take pictures of us too. Jason, you look like you want to say something.
Yeah, sure. I'm trying to think about what I've been trying to think for like 5 minutes about evacs I've gotten. I think I've only gotten 3 ever, and 2 of them are at Great Adventure. One again was opening day of Jersey Devil, my first ride ever. I hit the brake run, and they walk out with that big thing, and they have to shove it under the train. Second time, I was begging in like 2019 at Skull Mountain when the park opened during Holiday in the Park for a ride operator to give us lights on. I was with a high school friend, and no one else was in the station, no one else around. She was like, no. We get to the top of the lift hill, but the lights turn on. Yay! But the train never advanced into the station that was behind us. So the whole ride, we're watching that train on the final brake run. And we stopped in what they call like the first brakes. And she walks out and goes, well, you got what you wanted. Now the ride's down for the day, with a freaking like battery pack and plugged it in. Got us off.
Man.
And then this past week, I got evacuated off Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway while doing a spin in the room where it tries to take you to like a fake drop scene. I was spinning, last car, and it just slams to a stop. And then you hear Mickey and Minnie start singing, like, oh my God, we've gotten into a thing, MOUSE. And I'm like, so stupid. And then we sat there for like 10 minutes. No one came. Not a single cast member. We just kept hearing over the speakers, the cast members' walkie-talkies. Creepiest thing. And then they walked us out, and they were yelling at people for taking photos in front of the trains that were all stopped. So yeah.
My dad just texted me. Apparently, I got evacuated off of log flume when I was very little. But
oh wait, I forgot.
Okay, go ahead. Yeah, that's right. You did get.
Oh yeah, I forgot. Yeah, I did get evacuated off log flume. I got evacuated right when we were going into the first shoots, and they had us step onto the log in front of us that was also stopped there, walk in between the logs, and then jump down onto the catwalk because they forgot to bring a steps ladder up.
That sounds fun.
It was very safe.
I remember watching one where the turn out of the station for log flume, the water level was so high that the, I guess, change in angle from when you're flat to when you're going up the lift hill, the catwalk was completely covered over with water. And I was watching the supervisors have to go back and forth and they're like hopping over so they're not getting their feet wet. It's so funny. But I do got to get to the super chats because there are 2 now. First of all, thank you, F7, for the super chat. Do you think the new coaster will get leaked soon? That's tough to say. It's definitely possible. John, I love your picture. I don't know. I think they're going to wind up announcing it earlier than they were originally planning. I think they're going to have to, but it's really anyone's guess. And Almix, thank you for the super chat. Favorite ride on Cobb was with my friend, 12 a.m. Fright Fest, under capacity, tower half covered from the top in fog. Seeing only lampposts from the top was insane. That kind of brings me to another discussion point. The fog rides you could get on Kingda Ka were some of the coolest experiences ever. And specifically in 2024 in Fright Fest, there was one night, and I forget who was with me. It was definitely Zach. There was this crazy reflection where as you went up into the fog and the cloud, you could see the train's shadow rising with you, and then it like collided. It was one of the trippiest things I've ever seen in my life. Plus the addition of the fog lights in, I think it was either 2023 or 2024 to Ka, really elevated the night rides because you felt like you were ascending up into heaven and then just like spiraling down into this bright light. It was unreal. Let's see, where were we in the main chat? You said that one already. Oh, another super chat. Let me go back there. Thank you, Zach, for the super chat. Me, you, and Phil, the reflection was incredible. Yeah, I was pretty sure it was you. I've never seen anything like that. That was like straight out of a national park. That level of just unbelievable craziness right there. Just amazing. My wife is in the process of making a video for you for your Kingda Ka memory video. She absolutely loved that ride. She rode it since its opening day. Well, thank you. I'm very, very happy to hear that. Oh, I just got another text from my dad. So this isn't Ka. This is more so Toro. But it was Coaster Power Hours. I want to say 2022. Tom, I believe you were there. Do you remember the night when it was so foggy where Medusa's fireball, every time it went off, the entire sky just lit up?
Yeah, that was so cool. It looked so apocalyptic.
Absolutely. That just flashed into my head when he said that. That was.
I also remember
a video of it because it was real.
There was a day we rode Zumanjaro where like the cloud coverage was so low, but you could you would go up and maybe like a third of the way up Zumanjaro was where the clouds were. But then you got through them and it was clear as soon as you got up, and it was great. It was like you could tell when you're in the clouds. You were literally in the clouds. Nothing
like it, man. Absolutely nothing like it. They really should have put more rides over near Zumanjaro. The long walk while nice was unnecessary. The landscaping was also ugly. I wouldn't say the landscaping was ugly. Oh, another super chat. Come on, let's go back down. Thank you, Almix, for the super chat. I'm really going to miss those dueling drops on Zumanjaro.
Those were great.
Yeah, that made the ride right there. I mean, it was a phenomenal drop tower on its own, but to pair it with Ka like that, just unbelievable.
The last thing I wanted to show you was this.
Was that a pillow?
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. Very, very cool.
Yeah.
Let's see. What is your favorite snack to get at the park? Well, that's changed every year. I think my all-time favorite,
Gingerbread man.
probably peppermint ice
Gingerbread
cream.
man. Oh,
I
the
think it's
peppermint ice cream is so good. But
And the Flavor Burst ice cream from 2019 was amazing as well.
a little known fact about that Flavor Burst ice cream was that you could combine every flavor.
Yes, you could.
It was pretty good. I got to because in my like lists of all the rides I've done over the years at Great Adventures, also like the price of every food item, just so I can see how much more like past the cost I'm eating. But let me see. Probably was that Flavor Burst ice cream or like the specialty ice creams. Those are always good.
Let's see.
Wait a minute, hold on. Before you go ahead,
Okay.
apparently the park did have fried gingerbread cookies before, because
Really?
I'm seeing them in my list from 2020. So
Ah.
I don't know. Maybe I don't know. I don't remember them being that good. I feel like I would have remembered these. So maybe they
actually have a
perfected it.
list of-
Hang on, I have to jump in. I just got a text from Ace that apparently we got evacuated on Nitro. I do not remember when.
I don't remember that. Maybe I wasn't there.
Oh, I've been too.
I gotta ask him where. I don't remember when or where
Ace
that
has a
happened.
very good memory of these things, like photographic memory. So I totally
Mhm.
believe
I
it.
wouldn't doubt it. Let's see. Next up, any advice organizing an enthusiast trip? I wanted to go to Over Georgia, Fun Spot, Dollywood, Carowinds earlier this year. What I recommend is going on non-peak days. Granted, there's a higher chance of rides being closed, but they're going to be less crowded, so avoid weekends at all costs, especially with that set of parks. It's not hard to avoid weekends if you go in the summer. Oh, hold on. We got another super chat. Oh, boy. Thank you, Michael. Abstract 56. That's a difficult one to read. Thank you, Michael. I love the streams, man, and bigger things are coming to Great Adventure. What addition would the group like to see come to the parks? Bigger and better rides, or more theming, restaurant enhancements, etc., or both? I'll go first because I have a lot of thoughts about the future of Great Adventure, right? For starters, I think the boardwalk needs to be completely overhauled. I think that's been a long time coming, and it seems like that's kind of the direction they're going in. Not entirely, but kind of. I personally would like to see Superman go. I would like to see the go-karts, the slingshot, Right Stuff building, and every boardwalk game gone. Every single one. Wipe that whole area out. Give yourself a nice, big, clean slate, and make that like Vekoma heaven over there. Have a tilt coaster, have a STC, a suspended thrill coaster, maybe even a family inverted coaster or a family boomerang. Even put a Big Bear style coaster over there. There's so much you could do. Just make that Vekoma land, honestly. I would also love to see the Golden Kingdom's theming redone, so to speak. Not necessarily make it exactly like Jungle X, but take a lot of inspiration from Jungle X at King's Dominion. Have some new restaurants back there, new rides. Honestly, I think in the back there would be a great spot for something like Big Bear, kind of going around Toro in the back. You could even intertwine the Plaza del Carnaval area with Golden Kingdom and give them like a combined theme. Now that the Rolling Thunder track is more than likely getting removed, you could build a path to connect underneath Toro's Rolling Thunder Hill to that back area over there and like just expand it out. I think that'd be really cool. And I always thought that expanding Safari Base Camp to have an entrance in the back of the Golden Kingdom makes so much sense thematically. I mean, it's themed to a jungle, which, I mean, Safari jungle, it makes more sense than a Safari and the Wild West. So I always thought that would be a very natural stepping off point. And one more thing, and then I'll let everyone else share. If we were to get a mock Extreme Spinner, specifically the tower variant, I thought it would be awesome to see an observation tower in the middle that goes up. I know that won't happen, but I always thought that would be really cool. But that's the end of my TED Talk. Who else has some thoughts?
I do really hope that whatever replaces Ka or like anything that goes in that area retains the Golden Kingdom theming. I think it's such a unique thing, and there's a lot more. Like even before Ka was gone, there was a lot of land to work with, and I really think it could be our own jungle expedition area, like that kind of thing, like a full service restaurant, a couple really strong supporting flat rides, maybe even like more kid rides. But there's so much potential for that area.
Well, I have a pipe dream, and I thought since we're removing Skyway, we should do something like the Skyliner system, where we rebuild where the original Skyway was, and then add a stop that will then bring you from the Frontier Adventures to, let's say, base camp, and then from base camp to harbor maybe, and then also add a stop from Frontier Adventures to bring you all the way over to Savannah Sunset, which would then get Savannah Sunset guests their own private entrance via the Skyway, Skyliner, whatever you call it. I think that'd be a very good system. It wasn't that expensive what Disney did, and it'd be nice. It also would pay tribute to ride that's now removed, and would be a good source of like transportation that we don't have. Because what they're doing with Savannah Sunset is they're just driving people over in those safari trucks, the high end ones, and it'd be nice it'd make it feel more like a resort, and that would be a fun addition.
I agree. Yeah. Maybe.
We did have a super chat.
Oh.
Go ahead, John. Go ahead.
Sorry. Yeah.
No, I was gonna say, so with Ka and Zoo, and a whole lot, I had this thought they got to really step up for Fright Fest to offset the losses for this year. I mean, to really kind of, it's going to be interesting to see how Fright Fest does. But I kind of had that thought today. They kind of have to bring heavy IPs in this year. They want to bring people in, but I don't know.
They need something big to draw people back into the park, but they also have to clean everything up. So I'm a fan of kind of something big and then clean everything up and keep it clean. Keep it all the landscaping perfect, and have a nice restaurant overlooking maybe the safari. I don't know. Pipe dream. Just
repaint Nitro.
Repaint Nitro.
Yeah, that'd be nice. Bob, I know you're not a Great Adventure home parker, but after everything that's happened, what do you think would improve the park the most? Because you've seen the park in a lot of different eras.
Being a Cedar Point guy and seeing what they've done over the last couple of years, and Kings Island especially too, I think they need like more signature type restaurants there. I know that sounds weird because like we're always talking about like rides and attractions and things like that and infrastructure, but it's just like they don't have that over the top signature restaurant that they can be proud of, which a lot of parks do, especially bigger parks that you want to make your flagship parks. And if Great Adventure is going to retain that flagship of the East Park type thing, you would think that would be something on their priority list.
And if anyone from the park, Winky Face, happens to be watching this, maybe take some notes. I agree with pretty much everything everyone has said. There's so much potential that lies with Great Adventure. I think that's the most exciting thing about it. And to see someone's vision fully realized, I think would mean a lot, because we've kind of gone through a lot of different leaders and different park presidents over the years. And I think that once we're able to kind of get to a stable position and see multi-year plans kind of pan out, we saw the start of that. Really, the last time we really saw it was the mid-2000s with the double editions of Ka and Toro. I think that was kind of the start of a much longer plan over the course of multiple years to completely turn Great Adventure to something completely different. And I think if we could get back to that era of these giant like land overhauls with a marquee coaster to accompany them, and I think that could be the direction we're heading in, honestly, which really excites me. But there's so much potential with Great Adventure, honestly, more so than most parks, and that's really the best thing about this park. But we do have another super chat. Thank you, Dimitri's Adventures, for the super chat. Going to 16 parks in July. What would be your recommendations? Oh boy, going to Kings Island, Canada's Wonderland, Kentucky Kingdom.
Wear breathable shorts, or else you're going to chafe like crazy and be in pain and miserable.
And bring a spare set of
Very
socks.
true.
What is SF?
Six
It's not
Flags.
Six Flags. I don't know. Well, Knoebels, Darien Lake, Mount Olympus, Great America, Michigan's Adventure, Silver Dollar City, Worlds of Fun, Lost Island, Holiday World, Six Flags St. Louis, and Kennywood. You're really testing me with these acronyms or short names. Holy crap. pace yourself, give yourself a day every now and then to, not be doing a bunch of rushing around. If you're doing this all on one trip, that's a lengthy trip. That's a lot of driving to do all in one trip. Man, that's, I mean, the longest trip I think I personally have done was California. That's probably the longest that comes to mind, which was very long, but you gotta pace yourself. That's really the thing.
And don't eat a lot of theme park food.
No, definitely
And
don't eat a lot.
Give yourself time and pace yourself by exploring the cities that these parks are near or in, because there's a lot of history, a lot of cool
You got to stay
museums.
hydrated or it's going to ruin you too.
Yeah. Like you're going to St. Louis, go to the Arch one day, like spread it out. There's a lot of stuff to do in every city. It doesn't have to just be theme parks.
100%. We do have another super chat. Thank you, Theodore Toth, for the super chat. Thank you. That's a big one. Jeez. Hey, Colin, thanks for all the videos. Great Adventure was my home park for 35 years of my life. I now live in LA, so Magic Mountain is. Why get rid of the Sky Ride? Was it expensive to maintain? I don't get why they got rid of it. So if you could explain this. So let's see. How should I go about this? So the Skyway was likely going to undergo a major renovation, right? It was on track to. I know park leadership was really passionate about Skyway and trying to keep it as long as they could in as pure of a form as they could. And 2024 was obviously a very busy year. It was supposed to get a lot of work done in 2024 because it was its 50th anniversary at the park. But obviously there was so much going on, plus the merger. It all kind of just dogpiled. And I wouldn't group Skyway's closure together with like Kingda Ka, Green Lantern, all of them. I think this was definitely a very separate issue. And by proxy, I think that this is going to be a very different outcome. I probably speak for a lot of people. I don't think the Skyway is truly dead. I don't think it's never going to come back. I think out of everything, that is the ride that is most likely to come back, because having a park the size of Great Adventure with no transport ride, you're not going to sustain that for very long. So I do think down the line we will see something come to replace it. But the reason why it closed now, I truly think, is maintenance. I mean, it was a very taxing ride because there's not many out there like it. Sure, there are other Von Roll Skyways out there, but having one like this with essentially 4 sets of cables going at once, I'm pretty sure it's the only one. Am I right or wrong about that?
It is. Yeah. It is the only one left. Yeah.
And the thing with that is that you're not going to find parts as easily for it. Plus the fact that the towers, it's not like at, say, Cedar Point or Busch Gardens where they're only supporting 2 sets of cable, 1 set of cables with 2, going either way. You're supporting double that. And we all know that Jersey was a pain in the neck with their laws and regulations when it comes to the theme park industry, which is understandable considering the history that has been had in New Jersey. But I think what it really came down to was that Skyway was going to be a very difficult ride to overhaul. And they probably looked at everything they had going on and decided this was the best route to go. So again, I know I don't agree. I know most people don't agree. I think that Skyway is worth saving, whatever it costs. That is a ride that should have the money put into it. It's not like, say, Kingda Ka or any other massive coaster where you're having an incredible amount of stress and force being put on these towers. They're just gondolas going back and forth. That's all it is. It's a fairly simple ride. And it is a ride that can be enjoyed by literally anybody. It's not like Kingda Ka where only the extreme thrill seekers are going to love it. This is a ride that anybody, my grandma can ride it. My eventual kid could ride it. I mean, anybody could enjoy it. So I do hope that down the line, we will see it come back in a different form. I think Doppelmayr could do a really great job in bringing something new to the table and maybe expanding it. I always thought having a station near, say, Skull, then Frontier, and then you have one that goes to the Safari, one that goes to Hurricane Harbor. You got Jason's beautiful Doppelmayr hat. You got a station at Sunset, Savannah Sunset. There's so many opportunities to make something so cool out of it. And I just hope that within the next 10 years, we get the opportunity to see that. Yeah. So I know there's a very long answer because it's it's a complex situation, just like all the closures at Great Adventure. There's not just one cut and dry answer. There's a lot of different angles to look at it from. So I hope that kind of answers your question. Thanks again, Theodore. I really do appreciate it. We have more. Thank you, Jenna Ortega, for the super chat. Which Kingda Ka train was the most reliable? Here, let's look at it this way. Let's look at the 3 that were running the most frequently in the last month. It was teal, orange, and green. Green definitely was not, because they tried to avoid running green as much as they could. So it comes down to orange and teal. And they're pretty equal, honestly. Teal had gotten the refurb most recently. I know orange was getting closer to its refurb time. So I would be more inclined to say teal, because I do feel like I saw that running the most, but they alternated a lot between teal and orange. Blueberry Muffin only ran for the first half of 2024. And then eventually we obviously know that it just sat there in a really sad looking position. But it was pretty reliable when it was there. So green was definitely not the most reliable. I could tell you that for sure. We got another one. Thank you, Preston, for the super chat. Any tips for my upcoming BGW or King's Dominion trip? It depends on when you're going. I would definitely, at Busch Gardens, make it a priority to hit dark coaster as early as possible, because its capacity is not great. And it can definitely tend to get a pretty rough line. Ride and Pantheon can also get a long line. It depends on when you're going. But last time I was there was an opening year of Dark Coaster, and that thing had a ridiculous wait the entire time I was there. It was a good thing I had ERT. But you're not going to deal with too terrible of a line on like Alpengeist or Loch Ness Monster, Apollo. For the most part, those lines
you might want to hit Tempesto pretty early
Tempesto
too.
is another good one to hit early because
capacity.
it's got terrible capacity. For whatever reason, Griffin can get a pretty long line. I think a lot of that comes from the trains being so big. There's a lot they need to check on the train. So that could have something to do with it. As for King's Dominion, hit Tumbili as early as possible because, oh my lord, that line sucks. It could be different this year with Rapterra, and you're probably going to hit Rapterra pretty early too because if I had to guess, it could be very popular. You're also going to want to try to hit Apple Zapple early because that's another low capacity ride. Same with Reptilian. Really, just hit all of Jungle X early, and then either get on Flight of Fear and 305 or head over to Candy Apple Grove and get Apple Zapple. And then from there, you won't really deal with anything too bad. I don't think I missed anything, did I?
305, huh?
I Arian, man. It's always 305 to me.
You won't be ready for 305. You won't be ready for it.
Well, Pantherian is even more like Pantheon.
Pantherian.
Well,
just call it P305 still.
P305. I mean, yeah, technically it is still P305. But yeah,
I wonder if it's gonna roar when it comes out of the station instead of
that would be sick. I love the new paint job on it too. It looks phenomenal. Let's see. Let me find where we were back in the main chat. I think we were on the 850-ish mark. Let's see. Very soon I'm gonna have to put the line in the chat. I'm realizing what time it is. This has been going for a while.
We have work in the morning.
Yeah, we have a lot of the chat left, so I'm gonna say at 10:30 the line is going in, and we're gonna start blitzing through here. Let's see. Okay. My question to the panel is, why do you think Six Flags chose to implode Ka instead of selling it or moving it to another park? It's a very cut and dry answer.
So hard to move.
Relocating that coaster would be so difficult. It is not even funny how difficult it would be.
Think of how tough it'd be to rebuild the hydraulic room.
Yeah, that on top of the 100-foot footers, at least I think that's how deep they go.
Yeah.
So, yeah, relocating that ride would not be practical. Plus, it's 20 years old. So,
yeah.
Exactly. Let's see. Next up, I'm going to start going through this pretty quick because I'm at the 9 o'clock hour in the chat, and we are at 10:30 right now.
Oh, boy.
I will get to your next up. Let me do that now. We got a super chat. Thank you, Jenna, for the super chat. Teal had a rollback last day. I think orange. Austin had the final rollback ever on Ka. That was on the day before it closed, right? Or was it the day it closed?
No, I think it was the morning it closed.
You might be right.
Yeah.
The morning of its last day.
That was Teal Train?
Mm-hmm.
I think that was Teal Train. Yeah.
Eddie has the best implosion video.
Yeah.
Vlog clip.
Let's see. Wow, there's so much to try to get through. Oh my lord. Chiller closing with not much backlash. Yet Kingda Ka gets removed and gets a lot of backlash, even though they both weren't announced. Do you think the evolution of social media played a role in that? 100%.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about that. I definitely think that if it wasn't for social media, that people wouldn't have gone as good. People would still be upset, but it wouldn't be this outcry like there is now. I think that's definitely a good point.
Yeah.
All right, I just put the line in the chat for no more questions because we have too many now. Way too many. I probably should have put it in a little earlier, but oh well. I do apologize. I can't get to everything, but you guys have such great discussion points in here. I really do want to cover all of them, but if I did, we'd be here for 6 hours. So my voice can't handle it for that long. I know that. Let's see. Okay, I need to debunk this. There is multiple accounts on Twitter that are named Richard Zimmerman. They are not Richard Zimmerman. They are all parodies.
If that wasn't obvious.
Yes, they are all.
They're not him.
So just know that. He is not actually saying any of that on Twitter.
He's just thinking.
He's just.
I was wondering about that. I wanted to leave a review for you, Spreadshirt and Sammy's poster. Yeah. The Spreadshirt, the way Spreadshirt is structured, all of their products, like if you're trying to leave a review specifically for, say, one of my designs or Sammy's designs, it just leaves a review for the general product from Spreadshirt. So it would just go like, you know what I mean? It's not necessarily directly specifically for us, unfortunately. It's just the way Spreadshirt works. But I use Spreadshirt because I feel that they're able to have really good quality control. I haven't really had very many issues, and if there have been issues, I know they're really good at handling them, which I appreciate. And it's very hands-off, where I'm not having to sit there and order, rounds of shirts and keep them in stock and ship them out. They handle all of that, which I think is very appreciated. But yeah, if you do get a shirt, feel free to shoot me a message on Instagram or something and show it off, because I always love seeing all the different colors and how they come out. Let's see. And like I said, there will be a giveaway at some point this week on Instagram, so stay tuned for that. Oh boy, another super chat. This is an interesting one. How much money are you making from the super chat? I don't know, but I know YouTube takes a lot. I don't actually know what the split is, but you could probably find it if you Google it. I don't actually know. I'm not lying about that. Lightning rod. If Knott's had the space Great Adventure has, I bet Accelerator would have been torn down. I don't think it would have been done the way that Ka was. So, yeah, probably. I don't think they have room to.
Well, they sure as shit we're going to implode something in the middle of it. City.
That, and they don't need a very tall frame compared to Ka for Accelerator, because it's nowhere near as tall. So, let's see. Oh man, we're only at 9:15 in the chat. This is brutal. Do you think they'll ever get rid of mine train? No, I don't think that's ever going to go anywhere. Cedar Fair does not really remove the mine trains.
Thank goodness.
Yeah, that needs to stay forever. Let's see. Is Clockwork like better than Superman at Magic Mountains? 1000%. Superman, I'm not a huge fan of. Truly, I think it's okay. It's honestly just kind of stupid. I know it's like monumental because it was the first 400-foot coaster, but I think it's just a little strange. There's no excuse to not open Flash on opening day. You're right, because it will be open on opening day.
Yay!
Hooray!
To my knowledge, there's no reason why it won't be open on opening day.
The bare minimum.
Let's see. Dragster is better because this is about Ka versus Dragster. Dragster is better for the trains alone. like that old saying, just because a roller coaster is taller, faster, and longer doesn't mean it's going to be the better coaster. Although I do have to disagree with you. I do think Ka was better despite the, what's it called? Restraints. We have another super chat.
Wow.
Thank you, Moops, for the super chat. Your dog, at least I presume that's your dog in your profile picture, is very cute. This stream has been very cathartic. Long live the king. Yeah, it has been very nice to hear everybody's memories of Ka and Zumanjaro. Definitely helps getting over the implosion that we all just witnessed.
Yeah.
Oh boy, now that Great Adventure is on iRock, can you explain what that's going to mean? So I talked about this a little more detail on the last stream. It's going to be a little slower. It's just going to be different. That's really the best way I can describe it. If you've been to Cedar Fair parks, you've seen the way they operate rides, the way they check. It's going to be more in line with that. So I know the crews at Great Adventure still care a lot about throughput. They care about being as quick as possible. And I'm sure they're going to try to adapt the best they can with the new iRock procedures, which none of that's public information yet. I'm just going off of what we know from the Cedar Fair parks with iRock. Let's see. You think they should make different entrances into Great Adventure like they have at Cedar Point? If they're trying to make Great Adventure the Cedar Point of the East Coast, then 100%.
They have a ton of space near where Zumanjaro used to be now.
Yeah.
That used to be the season pass entrance.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, season pass entrance should definitely come back, especially now that they don't have Ka blocking it. Let's see. When I was in line for Ka on its last days, I saw people taking bamboo as a souvenir. I was tempted to take one too, but I decided not to. Yeah, I definitely thought it was a little strange. I mean, you could find bamboo anywhere, but people were upset. So I get it to a point. Let's see. Obviously, don't share, but do you have inside information about Great Adventure in the future? I'm just here speculating with everything we all know. That's really all there is to it.
Yep.
But sometimes my predictions tend to fall in line with what they wind up doing, and I mean, call that what you will. I guess it's just good speculation. I don't know. Let's see. What's your favorite coaster at BGW? That goes to Pantheon for sure.
Yeah, it's easy.
Pantheon is such a great ride. I don't know if you guys remember, but on April 1st, 2023, which was opening day, after the park closed, there was a tornado that was in Jackson. I remember, I do remember the weather was awful.
Because, we were all driving away and keeping each other updated as to where we were, because I had to stop under, an overpass on 195 to wait for the worst of it to blow over. And then in Jackson, there was a warehouse building that was under construction. One of the walls fell, and it took them a solid couple of months for them to even rebuild it. It's crazy.
Yeah, that tornado.
Yeah.
I had friends that were working in the park, and they had a shelter in place in the basement of the Western Skyway.
Jeez. Oh, we have another super chat. Thank you, F7, for the super chat. Accelerator will remain for as long as they can possibly keep it. I highly doubt they could get permits for a new coaster without close to houses. That is actually a good point. I don't know exactly what it's like in terms of permits and everything out there. I doubt it's as stringent as Jersey, but that is a good point. We'll see. I hope they keep it on because I haven't ridden it yet. I need to get on it sooner than later. That's for sure. And I really hope they figure out what's going on with Montezuma as well, because I don't know if anyone here has any updates on that. I've heard nothing.
Nope.
Yeah,
I heard that they now have the track completely covered in like tarp covering. It's really weird looking. I know America's Coaster Network, Chris, is a really good guy. He's been covering that, and he has some footage of that as well. Let's see. I think Colin sits on a chair for a living. Unfortunately, I do spend a little too much time sitting on the chair right here editing videos. So I try to get out and go to the parks as much as I can, because otherwise I'm editing. Let's see. I'm going to just start scrolling a little bit more here. I'm also very sad about it. I always wanted to go, and thankfully in my gap year, I had the chance. Rode it 10 times in a row one day without leaving the station. Long live the king. nothing comparable. I'm glad you're able to get on it. And marathoning Ka is one of the best marathons you could possibly have on a ride. That is for sure. Let's see. Would you like to see the boardwalk get rethemed to an expansion of the Golden Kingdom or something else? I think doing the kind of King's Dominion approach of having like a massive portion of the park themed to the jungle area because it's done so well can work. It just depends on how it's executed. My biggest issue with Great Adventure has always been, at least layout-wise, that there's too many dead ends. And I think the Cedar Fair parks are really good at addressing that because everything's a complete path. You're never walking all the way down somewhere and dead ending unless it's Steel Vengeance to Cedar Point because that's literally the end of the park. But for the most part, there's not many dead ends. Like the boardwalk is just a giant dead end. They should have it weave more with rides going in and around the pathway, having that really nice kinetic energy in the areas, which I feel like the park's always kind of been lacking because there are only 2 coasters really that go into the park, and that's Toro and Flash now. And I guess kind of Mine Train. But otherwise, most of the coasters have no interaction with the pathways or anything at all. So hopefully we'll see that change with Cedar Fair being in charge of design and everything.
And they have to do something with that whole animal area in the middle of the Golden Kingdom because I don't think there's going to be animals in there for much longer.
Yeah, that's very true.
Yeah.
I know the top hat is destroyed, but the launch track is still now. Everything is down from Ka now. Everything. There's not a single piece left standing, which is really sad to say.
I wonder if the like pieces of it went to the roller coaster. What was it? Museum.
That's a good question, actually. I don't know. Lots of speculation. Oh, here we go. I love hearing Colin shout, "Oh my God," on every video of the Kingda Ka implosion on TikTok. I was surprised. I was very surprised. Because if you guys saw the edited video, Austin was filming a vlog clip because he was doing like a little vlog for the implosion. And he was interviewing me. He's like, "Guys, it's the morning of the implosion. Not even 2 seconds into his clip, I hear the noise, and instantly I turn around and I was like, oh my God, I couldn't believe it."
Down it goes.
And down it goes. And it's funny because speaking of down it goes with the parachutes, I almost missed it. Well, I did miss it. I missed the boom. And Ken and Jason were both there with me. I missed the boom because I was texting somebody.
We all did.
And
yeah,
wasn't happy.
That person trolled both of us.
Yes, he did.
Yes, that was pretty bad. A little obvious.
Pixel for the super chat. No text here, but greatly appreciate it. Want to shout you out. Where was I in the chat? Oh boy, this is always fun to find. I need to start memorizing the time. That's my issue here.
Well, you were probably like what, 9:20, 9:30?
We're around 9. I thought we were around 9:30ish. Oh, definitely past that. Let's see. Okay, I'm past that. I got to get a better system. This is ridiculous. There we go. I was here. What did Kingda Ka mean to you? I don't want to do my whole monologue again that I did at the beginning of the stream, but I kind of credit it as being the ride that really ignited my passion for roller coasters. And Zumanjaro by proxy helped lead into that. So yeah, it was very sad to see them go. I believed you, Colin, because you're always a very credible source. Not to mention when I went there Veterans Weekend, I saw markers, which wasn't a good sign of it staying. So obviously the rumors were swirling for a while before the markers were on the ground. But my stance on covering anything speculative related is that I'm really not willing to go all in on something like that, especially something that severe, unless there's visible evidence. And at that point, I was pretty much just waiting for the markers to pop up. And as soon as those markers popped up, I tried to tell you guys as fast as I could. And it seems like it worked. It seems like a lot of people were able to get their rides in after they got the warnings from the content creators, which I'm really happy we were able to help you guys out for that. Flash is going to be better than everyone thinks, and I'll stand by that. Colin knows what I'm saying. Yeah, I definitely think you are right, Abstract 56. Yeah. Flash is probably going to surprise people in a very good way.
It'll be my 100th coaster.
That's going to be your 100th?
Yeah.
Nice.
Are you at 99 right now?
Yeah. Yep.
Oh, sweet, man. That's awesome. I always wished I was able to time it up to be a big milestone. Bob, what was Top Thrill 2 for you?
500.
Yeah.
Ooh.
And the fact that you were able to time it up like that is mind-blowing to me.
Yeah.
Let's see. When are you posting the Kingda Ka memory video? So if you guys have followed the pattern of uploads on the channel, there is one big video, so to speak, every other day, and in between those is a POV. So we had one big video drop yesterday, which means there's another one tomorrow. It's not tomorrow's. Ideally, it's going to be Wednesdays, but if it's not Wednesdays, it'll be Fridays.
As soon as I get
probably Wednesdays. What'd you say, John?
No, I said as soon as I get off here, I'll make mine.
Awesome. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Let's see. We answered that. We are now at 10:14. We're getting close. Oops. I didn't want to do that one. Best of the West used to be good when they served ribs, but the menu got detracted over the years. They definitely made some efforts to get it to a better state recently. I will say that. I know
Still
Tom tends to be my food surrogate because I don't eat very varied foods. So, Tom, how would you rate Best of the West as of recently?
I thought it went. I agreed that over the years the menu kind of scaled back, but I think it's going back in the right direction. They had, I think Austin really liked the barbecue burger that was there. I still say the Jersey Devil barbecue had the best burgers in the park, but I don't know. I think it's going in the right direction. There's some things they're bringing back to the menu, which is nice.
I like their Best of the West burger. That was good.
They have really good brisket, beef, like pulled brisket sandwiches, and also best desserts in the park. If you want a good snack, there you go.
Also, I have to jump in because the best burger in the park is Garden State Grill's burgers, in my opinion. It used to be Fat Burger, but it is Garden State Grill. Let's see. Oh, there we go. How much of a priority would you say it is to get to Magic Mountain for X2, and how likely do you think Edgenica is to come back? That's right. I did not mention the Edgenica situation. So my condolences go to the family of the employee who was unfortunately killed the same day of Kingda Ka's implosion at Fuji-Q Highland for working on Edgenica. From what I understand, the ride was not locked out, and somehow, correct me if I'm wrong on any of the details, I didn't read it yet, a train somehow struck him, and is that how it went? I feel like one of you guys probably have a better idea of this than I do.
No, I haven't followed very closely.
I saw that something happened. I didn't read about it.
Well, I don't know enough about it to comment on it, but if you do want to hear about it, I know it's not a very pleasant situation. You can look it up. But I do think it will come back. Japan tends to be a little like, this wasn't a situation that was necessarily the fault of anything mechanically with the ride. I think if that was the case, then it probably would have a less likely chance of coming back. But this is, I wouldn't say it's necessarily the employee's fault either. Again, I don't know the situation, but this is definitely something that boils down to human error from my understanding. So typically when it's something human error related, the ride does wind up reopening. But we have seen situations where that's not the case. And as for X2, I would definitely make it a priority to ride it just in case, because you never know. As Brian, Coaster Patch shirt guy, always says, treat every ride as if it's your last, because you truly never know. And it looks like we just got an X2 super chat. Thank you, F7. Apparently X2 is splicing trains together now. I did hear that, which is interesting. That's for sure. Let's see, where was I? I already forgot the time. Okay, here we go. I like your reason for things going, Colin. I agree. Ka's been there about 20 years' time to build a new one. So that video turned out to be fairly controversial, which I expected. And, I understand that a lot of people are just more than anything very upset about the removal. And I'm not trying to discredit those feelings or anything like that, but it's important for us to kind of look to the future and try to see where the park is heading, because the corporate wouldn't do this if they didn't have a plan, if they didn't have a direction. And as I outlined in that video, I firmly believe they do have a plan. They do have a direction. There's no way they're geogalating Great Adventure. It's just not going to happen. Great Adventure is in such a prime location. And I think the way they look at Great Adventure is that they can take it and build it into what it should be, as opposed to letting it sit in a state where it just will not become what it should be. And I think the start of that was this. So regardless of your opinions on corporate or anything, there is definitely a plan. I can say that for sure. There's definitely a plan. And I think their long-term goal is to make Great Adventure a resort. And I think that's always been the goal. I mean, we do this since pre-merger when they changed the name to Great Adventure Resort. It's just that Cedar Fair has a different idea of what that looks like compared to Legacy Six Flags. And we just got to wait and see what that winds up looking like. And as the PR manager for Great Adventure said very well, short-term pain for long-term gain. And that is definitely what we are going to be going through for the next couple of years. That is probably the best way to summarize the situation. So I will continue to reference that. Let's see. What ride at Great Adventure is getting the axe next? I would think the rest of the upcharge attractions, so the go-karts, Slingshot, and they might as well get rid of the Right Stuff building. That gives them a lot more room to expand. In terms of next coaster, there's a few it could be, honestly. Superman. I think the top of the list is probably going to be Medusa, Skull, and Superman. I think those are going to be the top. I'm not saying that's going to happen immediately. No. I'm saying next coaster.
What do you think? What do you think is going to happen to Batman retrack?
Yeah, they're going to keep Batman around. They've been putting a lot of work into all the Batmans, so I think they're fine. And Superman, unless they retheme it, it does not fit in at all with what they're doing with that area. So
no,
something's going to have to happen with that.
No more DC. Keep the new ride not a DC ride, please.
That would be nice.
That would be nice. Okay, this is actually an interesting one here. What's your opinion on backyard coasters? I built one using PVC pipe and it launches. So Sammy's not with us on this stream, but I'm sure you all know Sammy. And he has built two shown off backyard coasters at his place, and then one in Pennsylvania, Black Stallion, Shadowstalker, and Expedition Equinox. I've ridden the first two, and I love backyard coasters. I think the process to make them is more interesting than anything else. And when it's well documented, it can create for a really, really unique and cool story. He built his out of wood. So I'm not really familiar with how the PVC ones go because I have not ridden one or seen one. But backyard coasters are so intriguing to me. And if I had the time and the patience to, I would definitely build one. But
don't let your homeowner's insurance know.
Right.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Or don't put it on the news.
Yeah, probably not the greatest idea. But we're going to end the stream out with the final question, which is just above the line for no more questions, which was at 10:30. If you choose what replaces Ka, what would it be? I'm going to let you guys figure this out for yourselves because we all have different. This is not what you want, what you think it's going to be, what you would want it to be.
I will reference the long-standing rumor, or draw upon that Great Adventure was given a choice between Kingda Ka and a Giga. So I would say replace Kingda Ka with the other option of a Giga. Leaves you room to build that Intamin Blitz somewhere else in the park, not as Ka's replacement, but why not go the other way? We got that one option. Let's try the Giga.
Okay. I like that idea.
We need a Nitro, but next step up, bigger. And like Fury 325, bigger. Something that's a capacity just can churn people through.
What about like a modern Strata? like
I feel like I mean, I'm not discrediting what you would want to see, obviously, but I feel like they wouldn't directly replace Ka with the same thing.
Yeah.
There would have to be something to differentiate it.
Yeah.
I'd pick a 400-foot pipeline the surf coaster clone.
Okay.
And I'm gonna answer for Sammy, and he would pick a Guardians clone.
He would pick a 400-foot giant box to go in the plot of Ka.
Yes, he would.
Yes.
He would.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Bob?
I think I agree with Tom in terms of putting the Giga in. Although I know we don't work with Intamin anymore, but can we get like a new generation Intamin Giga? You know, maybe add some of their newer elements and things in that they've incorporated, and these nicer, more comfortable trains like Velocicoaster type trains and things.
Yep.
So I'm gonna call upon a very interesting concept that was made by a friend of ours, Radzad Productions. He made something called Skull Mountain Extreme.
Oh, God.
Connects Skull Mountain, Skyway, Kingda Ka, Green Lantern, and goes back. Obviously, I know that would never happen. But something that is made by Intamin is essentially a Blitz or multi-launch model that features a 400-plus foot element, preferably an inverted top hat, and then proceeds to go into like a typical Intamin Blitz style layout. That'd be pretty sick. I think that would be pretty sick.
That would Esquire.
Whatever that means, sure. But with that, that is going to do it for this quite long, almost 3-hour stream, honoring the king of all coasters, Kingda Ka. I cannot thank you all enough for tuning in and voting in the poll in the chat, which ended with 237 votes, and Kingda Ka won with 79%, beating out Top Thrill Dragster. So congratulations, Kingda Ka.
Long live
the king. Speaking of Long Live the King, like I said earlier, there will be a giveaway of this shirt. Well, not this exact shirt, but these shirts on Instagram at some point this week. So follow me at Hollywood_studios if you'd like to be part of a video that honors Kingda Ka by sharing your memories of Kingda Ka and Zumanjaro by extension. Shoot me a DM or an email, and I'll give you guys the details. But with that, I'm going to let you guys all plug your socials one last time before we end it out. So we'll start with Jason and work our way down.
At Accelerated Creative on TikTok and Instagram.
Bob?
BK photo page on pretty much everything.
John?
King of Zumanjaro on Instagram.
Yeah.
Tom?
You can find me at Toms_tracks99 on Instagram.
And Ken?
And it's Uncle Ken. And Uncle Ken's just going to say that loss is always hard, but time heals all.
Very, very wise words from Uncle Ken. Thank you all again for tuning in. If you enjoyed, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll see you all in the next video. Goodbye, guys.